Good evening / afternoon if you're, in the future. Welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour episode 114. I'm here with, is it pronounced Ainy Cormac?
Yeah, Ainy Cormac. Yeah,
Is
it's a
that your
pen
actual
name.
name or is
No,
that a pen name?
it's a pen name. My real name's Aiden. But
I thought not, because I'm like, that would be a pretty interesting. Your parents
it
must
would.
be like hippies or something if they picked that name, or,
Right. Well, actually, I've looked it up. I've looked up the Ainy part, Ainy, and there's a lot of women called Ainy. So I think it's a women's name. When I was a kid, I couldn't pronounce my name, so I just said Ainy Cormac, and that kind of stuck as a bit of a nickname. And then when it came time to publish, I was like, do I use my real name or do I go under a pseudonym? So I just decided to do the pseudonym.
so is Cormac like your middle name?
No, my last name is McCormack, like McCormack. But I couldn't pronounce it as a kid, so just Cormac.
Huh, alright.
Yeah. So Aiden McCormack is my real name, and then Ainy Cormac's my what I publish everything under.
Well,
Yeah.
I see. You've written a few things, and you were just telling me about before we got on here. You've written some stories, some
hmm
novellas.
Yeah.
There's one called "The Last Voice You'll Ever Hear," which that sounds awfully ominous.
Yeah. That was Nicholas Fuller. Do you know Nicholas Fuller on Insta? He's one of the break-ins. He
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he does interviews, sort of like how you do it. Like on YouTube, you'll do interviews on YouTube, and I was trying to convince him to make a podcast. I was like, like make a podcast, so be. And I just thought I'd write this post-apocalyptic story where he had this podcast that's like the last voice you'll ever hear, because in the post-apocalypse, it's the only thing like sort of left around that's still playing. Yeah,
Hmm.
it didn't work. He still hasn't got a podcast, but it was a good story to write. It was fun. So yeah,
Fair enough. So, like, where would you say is your like genres that you like to write in? Like, what?
I like fantasy and I like sci-fi. It's hard because most of what I've got up at the moment is just like 6 books or so. A lot of it's horror, and I
Mm-hmm.
do like horror. It's fun. It's like short story wise, it's fun. But I don't think I could do like full length horror too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like currently for the maybe the last 10 years or so I've been working on fantasy. Just in the background writing a fantasy trilogy like we were just saying before.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on this big sort of series. Um, But I think sci-fi is what I really love as well. So probably sci-fi and fantasy. But I love sci-fi because I feel like you can kind of do a lot with it.
I see.
Mm.
So you've been working on this thing for a while. You were telling me about just
Yeah.
recently that you were just telling me about before we got on here. Would you
hmm
like to describe it for some people who might be interested, or
Yeah.
are you trying to keep it
Yeah.
under wraps at the moment?
No, I mean I've like released title ideas and stuff, and so basically it's this huge. It was this kind of big series idea of this world where this is like kind of this goddess that's died, and her body is the land. That's why the land herself is called that. It's a prequel novella to the series.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'd kind of planned it to be sort of two trilogies and a standalone children's grimdark novel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm currently working on that first trilogy. I've been working on that first trilogy for a few years now. But as I was saying off camera, I'm considering just condensing that into one huge book. Um, I'm finding that writing a trilogy, I was going to write it all as one, sort of like write the whole thing and then publish each bit. But yeah, I'm just finding that I might try and condense it. I don't know. In 2 weeks' time, it might be no. I'm back to the idea of doing a trilogy. But yeah, so far I've written the first book and a half, and yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a dark fantasy set in this world about a guy who he's kind of long lived. He's been cursed by a witch or something along those lines. Spoilers, and as a child, and he's sort of blessed / cursed with long life and dashingly good looks. So
Oh
whoever looks
no.
upon him, I know, but it's like they see only what they want. Like, so if you see someone, it's like you're right, whatever your ideal man would be, whatever your ideal person would be. So he's not really been seen for about 400 years because everyone only sees what they want to see on him.
Huh, that's a weird
Yeah,
curse.
yeah, yeah. So it's like kind of not being known across all this time. And so basically, the first trilogy is just about him sort of he's a bit of an asshole, you know, like he's not a nice guy because he doesn't really care. So it's just sort of him sort of trying to overcome that curse, and yeah, that's kind of the gist of it.
So is it like a grimdark kind of thing,
Yeah,
or is it like
yeah.
a dark
At
fantasy
first, I
kind of
was
thing?
well, it's got like body horror in it. Like it is, I would say, yeah, probably it is grimdark. Because the problem with the grimdark thing though is that it's got too much. I feel like it's got too much comedy in there. Like I can't do it straight. I think that's also the problem with horror, like writing horror, is like,
So you're saying it should be like even darker, like peak grimdark for
but it's
you?
got okay. So it's got really dark stuff. Like
Uh-huh.
it's there's moments where like even writing it, I was like not tearing up, but I was like, this is full on. This is dark. But then it's got other stuff where like you've got people turning into chickens and you know, sorcerers with dicky magic that can't do it properly, and it keeps like screwing up. You know, so it's got like it's kind of like not slapstick, but it's a little bit like Don Quixote. Like Don Quixote has been a little bit of an influence for it in the sense that it's like it's kind of like, yeah, there's like misadventures and all this sort of stuff. There's comedy in it, even though it's got really dark things as well.
Well, unfortunately, I haven't read Don Quixote, but I know what it is, so I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah. I mean, and once you've read a part of Don Quixote, you've read a lot of it. You know, it is kind of this. It's repetitive. You know, it keeps going on. It's just him and his squire going across the world.
Isn't it
You
like
know,
a
Spain and stuff.
crazy old man and his like servant, and the old guy
Yeah,
thinks he's a knight or something like that?
yeah. Because it's like because it's you know it was written like the 1600s when knights were no longer, they were kind of phased out. So he's kind of looking back in time, being like glamorizing the idea of being a knight errant when everyone else has kind of moved on beyond it. Um, so yeah, he's an old man, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go out and become a knight." And yeah, but it's hilarious. That
He's like,
novel.
I'm gonna go out and become a knight.
Yeah, like I think in
Or
the first like page or so, he makes his suit of armor out of like pots and pans and whatever. But he makes a helmet, and then he like whacks it to test it, and it falls apart. So then he goes, "Oh shit!" So he puts it back together, but he doesn't test it again because he's like, "I know it'll fall apart, so I won't test it again." Which you know like defeats the whole purpose of having a helmet in the first place. So
mm-hmm.
it's that kind of like I don't know. There's a lot of slapstick and stuff in it.
I see.
Mm. It's really
So
good. And then
like,
the second, so he wrote this book, and then it was raging success. I don't know if it was a raging success to be honest, but it
so
was
are you
big
not like
enough.
a Joe Abercrombie fan? Going back to the grimdark thing.
Hey, what do you mean?
Wait, well, you said you think it's too funny at times, or were you talking about your
Oh,
own
sorry.
book?
Oh, I was talking about Don Quixote.
Oh, sorry.
Um, no, you're right. Yeah, no, it's meta, is what I was going to say. So he wrote a book, and then there was enough public reaction that they were like wanted it, and then someone started writing a copy. They're like writing a sequel. Sorry. So he thought, oh, I may as well cash in on this and write the sequel that I want to write. So he wrote a sequel, but in the sequel to Don Quixote, they refer to themselves as characters in Don Quixote. Like it's a really meta novel.
Huh.
Does that
So
make
it's
sense?
like
Like, so
it's like the
it's
first
like,
postmodern novel in a way.
yeah, one of them, yeah, that and Tristram Shandy and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's so the first book is like out in the wild, and then Don Quixote is like talking about how they're characters in this book. But yeah, no, with what I'm working on, yeah, it's I don't know. I like treading the line between it being like dark but fun. It is. You often talk to people who write horror, and it is fun to write. Whereas on the flip side of
Oh dear. Gonna have to. Sorry about that. I'll just cut that out when I edit it. Can you hear me
no, yeah,
okay? My internet just went for a
yeah,
second.
no worries.
Gotta love that international internet. But continue what you were
I
saying. You
know.
finished the point you were making. You were talking about Don Quixote or
Which
something.
part?
Or you're talking about
John Quixote.
postmodernism or
Which part
something.
we're up to? It's postmodern. Like it's yeah. So like the first book was published, and then you know people liked it enough that yeah, a second author was like, I'm going to write the sequel to this and make a bunch of money, and then Cervantes was like,
As you
no,
do.
well I'm
As you
gonna
do. I hear
yeah
you.
I'm gonna go and write the book so that it actually I have the kind of the control over it. So he wrote Don Quixote Part Two, and yeah, in Don Quixote Part Two they talk about the first book of being like how this author's written about them and how they're exploits are known and stuff.
Huh, that's
But yeah.
interesting. Maybe I'll read Don Quixote someday. But
Oh well, speaking of reading, like I was looking last night at your reading list, your anticipated 2025 reading list.
oh, thanks.
Yeah,
That was a long
well,
video, so I was kind of nervous people wouldn't watch it because I'm like, there's a bunch of stuff I'm excited about, but people's attention span is so bad. I don't know if they're gonna pay attention to everything I'm talking about.
No, man, it was good, and I was actually I typed out a message to you, and I was like, no, I won't send it. I'll wait for tomorrow because it'll give us some fuel for the chat, you know. But because the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, firstly, a bunch of the books that are on your list, I was like, yes, that's on my list, like the Marlon James book, and like I studied Pale Fire at uni, but
let me get my copy out.
I never read the text. I actually just went to the lectures and stuff. But I've been meaning to.
Are you talking about Pale Fire? Because
yeah.
I'll admit I've only read Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, which is
I haven't read that.
Well, it's one of my favorite books of all time. So you can.
I watched the video yesterday. You raved about it. It's on my list.
I was about to say, I did make a video talking about it. So if you want to watch that, but I got this copy. I was kind of nervous to try some of his other books for a long time because I'm like, oh man, if Lolita cracked my brain open, I mean, what's gonna be his other books?
I never read it, but the lecture that we went into, the lecturer holds
like
up
Pale Fire, like there's like a poem in there, like right there.
Yeah, so the whole thing, it's like a poem, right?
And then there's like and then there's like literary criticism, like fictional literary criticism. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Our lecturer was like, where did you? So you just asked us, like in the first week of reading it, because in a unit we might read 4 novels. He's like, where did people start reading? And everyone's like, oh, I just opened up to the poem and started reading. And he's like, well, actually, like the foreword is part of the novel, as well as the commentary at the end is also part of the novel. So, again, I never actually went back and read it because I was a bit too lazy, but it's been on the list. I'm like, when I'm back into like a literary, wanting to read something literary, I'll dive back into it.
Yeah, I don't.
The chunks of the poem that I read were really good.
Yeah, I read a book called My Dark Vanessa last year, and I ended up realizing that it was a reference to this book. And I'm like, I think it's a sign, guys. I think it's a sign for me to read Pale Fire finally.
Yeah.
Get over myself and read Pale Fire.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even that long. Like, that's the thing. It's not that long. But, I just remember, it's still quite daunting. So I'm watching, your video, and then you've got, like, Dunsany and a few other, like, Blood in the Mist, these other, like, pre-Tolkien fantasies, and the whole time I'm like, dude, Gormenghast, get to Gormenghast, and then like the last thing you're like, and then I'm gonna read Gormenghast, and I was like, that's so good because I'm currently reading Gormenghast the novel, but last year I read Titus Grown, and that was like one of my top 5, I reckon, books. I just loved it.
Yeah, no, let me just grab my copy, which is
that's
the ginormous, I just have omnibus for yours. Looks really nice though.
This is hardcover. Yeah,
is that the one with the Michael Moorcock forward?
Yeah, it's cool, and it's got these like little illustrations and stuff. Oh, yours probably has the illustrations too, but there's just like little sketches and doodles and stuff that he's got.
Yeah, no, Gormenghast is like, because I was gonna read Titus Grown in 2024. Just didn't happen because I read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell and then Moonwitch Spider King, which are 2 very dense books, and I'm like, I don't really want to put in a 3rd really dense book in there, But so this year I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make it up to you guys. I'm gonna read the whole freaking trilogy if possible. So we'll see.
Do it.
I've heard they're not. I've heard it can be daunting reading for some, but we'll see.
Yeah, most of it I listened to on audio because it was really entertaining the way that they did it because it's so like Dickensian and gothic and stuff, and the characters he writes are just so like you mentioned Joe Abercrombie, but it was like these characters who are like caricatures, but they're like these super gothic caricatures where the way they speak and the way they do things and their descriptions of their bodies and stuff, it's really quite grim, but I love it. It has more plot than I was actually expecting because I was expecting it to just be like 100% just atmosphere and mood, which it has a lot of that, but it actually does have some plot to it, which I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, Gormenghast has been one I've wanted to get to for a while because it's like one that like the guys like Michael Moorcock who are like, Tolkien's overrated. They're like, that's the true fantasy classic. And I'm like, okay, buddy, we'll
I'm
see
still on the
about
fence
that.
about that. I get what they're getting at, but I'm still on the fence about it because it's like he's very fantastical, but it's because you mentioned JG what's his name?
JG Keely?
Yeah. Because I've been following his Goodreads reviews for years, and he's on that that angle of like the anti-Tolkien, yeah. But those because pre-Tolkien works are really, I haven't read them all, but they're just really cool, like how they work fantasy and fantastical elements, because we get so caught up in thinking of fantasy as just that Tolkien-esque like secondary world. You need a map, you need a glossary, you need all these different races and whatever. Whereas like Mervyn Peake he won't explain things, he'll just kind of throw you in, and which you got Malazan on your thing as well.
Yeah, I also have Malazan on there. So yeah, I'm gonna be pretty stacked this year, to be honest with you. So I'm just getting, I got Gardens of the Moon right here. I call it the airport copy because it's really small. But
is that the Tor one? I think it's like published by Tor.
Oh yeah, it says Tor right there, so I'm guessing it is.
And there's the Bantam ones. The Bantam ones are a little bit bigger. Because I bought the Bantam ones, and then my dog chewed one of the Bantam ones, so then I had to buy another copy of it, and I accidentally bought the Tor. So it's like it's all uniform, and then there's this like drop one book. But,
I was kind of hesitant to do Malazan for a long time because I'm like, man, I don't really. Unless it's like Game of Thrones or something. Like, I don't like doing those real long, big series, like not really my thing.
It's hard to, because like...
But then finally, some friends of mine convinced me because they're like, well, it does all this cool stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Fine, I'll give it a shot. And I'm trying to go at it in a leisurely way, I don't want to try to binge the series, I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to give Gardens of the Moon a shot. If I like it, great, I'll keep going. If I don't, we'll see.
You definitely burn out, I feel like, if you tried to tear through it, and I feel like you'd miss a lot. But I feel like it's not as complicated as people make out. Like when it came out, 1999 or whatever.
I've heard it all. I've heard people say it's complicated. I've heard people say it's not that complicated. I've heard it all at this point.
Like broad strokes, it's very straightforward. Like broad strokes of the story, like major plot points and stuff. It's not that, it's just, I think when you get it, there is a lot of detail and technicality in there that you can get into.
And I'm like, I read Black Leopard, Red Wolf a few years ago, so it can't be that bad, right? So we'll see. We'll see.
And it's hard to recommend because I'm always like, well, at least read the first like 3 books. They're like, these, because it's like you read the first one and then the second one jumps to a whole different continent, and then the third one kind of bits meet together, and the third one is like one of the greatest books. But it's hard to sell someone on being like, hey man, just read about 4,000 words, like 4,000 pages or so, and you'll have a good story.
Yeah, like Gormenghast, it's 3 books. I've heard they're very dense and they don't feel like 3 books, but they're 3 books technically.
Yeah.
There were probably going to be more, but unfortunately Mervyn Peake died before he could get to any more of them.
And even that last one, I think it was like, I haven't read it, but said to have a drop in quality because of his what was going on with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had notes left over that he think his wife compiled to have a 4th book, which is generally not really highly regarded.
Yeah, my copy that I have, which is like an omnibus with all of them, it's basically all the books and then like the little fragments they got for like the 4th one that he would have done. It's kind of... I don't know if yours has that, but
No, you win. That's cool. Mine doesn't have that.
No, I'm like, I'm going to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what I think. Because, I do like Lord of the Rings. It's one of the tensions with JG Keely. I like his reviews a lot, but there's a lot of them I'm like, man, like his Game of Thrones one, I'm like, dude, you missed the mark so bad on this. But, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, and but that's also what I love.
But
Is
he's
like,
also introduced me to some I don't think I would have known what Perdido Street Station was if it wasn't for him, or
right,
like Gormenghast or any of these other fantasy stuff that's kind of
yeah.
forgotten by a lot of
You
people.
literally go into his reviews and you're like, man, like there's a whole library of books here that he's referring to that I would have never come across because you go to the bookshop and they're just not there, because they're all these underground ones. But yeah, his reviews, I love Tolkien, but I also love in like, so Tolkien's kind of like cast this shadow on fantasy, so
Mm-hmm.
everyone kind of lives in Tolkien shadow. I love like if you've got like Tolkien and there's a shadow, it's like whatever Tolkien was standing in the shadow of. I love like you go back to like Beowulf and like Sir Gawain and Green Knight and all these classic like poems and things like that. I love all of the stuff that he was interested in. I think that's really cool. Like, um,
I actually
yeah,
read I read Gawain and the Green Knight finally, which is a
hmm
newer copy. It's I might read the Tolkien version at some point.
yeah,
Because I've heard it's more like authentic to like what it actually would have sounded like.
yeah,
So we'll see, but maybe I'll try that. But I read one; it was one of the newer ones. It was a movie tie-in copy because the movie just came out, and I really enjoyed
yep,
the movie. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I
yeah. I
liked
thought
it;
that
it's
movie was
fun.
really good. Yeah, it was. There's lots in it to like pull apart. You know, especially talk about like his morality and all of the like chivalry and stuff, breaking all that stuff apart. It's those texts that I've really used in what I'm currently working on.
Mm-hmm.
Not as an inversion, but sort of just like referring back to it, like referring back to Don Quixote, who goes on about chivalry,
Mm-hmm.
or referring back to um, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, like these ideas of chivalry. Um, yeah. What are you eating?
So what am I reading? Well,
No,
I
eating.
what am I eating? Oh, grilled
Yeah.
cheese.
Nice. And then what are you reading?
What am I reading? Well, I just completed the Northwater today, so let me
Oh,
just
that's right. You said.
put these down. So
Yeah.
tomorrow, at least, probably after I see the uh, Bob Dylan movie, because my dad's like, "Hey, you want to go see that?" And I'm like, "All right." So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go see that tomorrow. Probably gonna start "Cities in the Plain" by Cormac
Yeah.
McCarthy, which is the
Yep.
third of his Border trilogy.
hmm
And I am reading Michael Chabon's The Yiddish Policeman's Union, which is
Cool.
an alternate history detective novel about what if Jews went to Alaska instead of Israel, and they're
Yeah.
about to get kicked out soon. So
Wow.
too bad. Kind
I've
and
never
there's
read his
also this
work.
murder mystery on top of that. And you're like, oh my god. So yeah, it's pretty good so far. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
I haven't.
trying to start slow, but we'll see where that goes.
I read I think the last Cormac McCarthy I read was Blood Meridian because that was the one I was working up to,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved it, but I think it burnt me out a bit because I'm just like I don't know if you can really top it. Like it's so good, but it's so bleak.
Yeah, I mean, the Border trilogy isn't quite as bleak. Well, the
No.
Crossing gets pretty dark. Oh, yeah. Um, they're generally lighter. Fair. So I read
Yeah.
All the Pretty Horses in 2023 around this time. And I read The
hmm
Crossing last year, and now I'm
Yep.
finishing off Cities of the Plain this year. So,
Have you read Child of God?
mm-hmm. It's one of my lesser favorites, though.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
well
man,
written, but it's just like, okay, yeah,
it's
I get what
beautifully
you're
written.
getting
But
at.
and I'm just thinking about that last scene where they scrape. Like it's just, and then I think Outer Dark was another one. And like I'm sitting there, and like my wife's there. She's like, "Oh, what are you reading about?" I'm like, "Oh, incest." Classic little incest tale. Yeah, so his work is like it's really cool and it's really well written. I love it. Even the road, like I think it's like what the way he wrote the road, like it's written so bleak and so simply that it's like all humanity's been devoid of the. It's taken out of the text. There's no
Mm-hmm.
humanity. It's just like it was dark. There was ash, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool. Just you can't. I feel like I can't read too much of it because it is just so bleak.
Yeah, you have to read, or at least for me, I read McCarthy in doses. Yeah,
hmm Yeah, yeah. Break him up a bit.
because it's
Um,
like, man, like it took me like, oh man, it took me like a month to read Blood Meridian when I read it the first time because it was just,
yeah.
my lord, it is unrelenting.
No, it does. It doesn't hold. It like just it's nonstop.
It's just,
And
It's like,
There's
oh,
just so much
are you
violence.
feeling? Are you feeling bad? Oh, feel worse. More.
Yeah,
Just more of it.
and it's like how many graphically violent scenes do we need? Like,
And I'm just
at what
like,
point
this
do we
is
say
so
this?
beautifully written, but this is really
Yeah,
depraved at the same
yeah.
time.
Like, you're really describing the scalping that's going on right here. This is beautiful, beautiful prose. Um, and you've got guards as well. That was the other one I was thinking about because starting in Discworld. So I
Yeah,
really
that's another
enjoyed your
one.
video.
People are like, "Oh my gosh, you should read Discworld." And for a while, I was kind of like, I don't know. It sounds kind of because I read a couple of like Keely's reviews, for instance, and from what he sounded, it just kind of sounded like dumb fantasy jokes and whatnot. And it's like, whatever. But I've heard like such passion that people had for it. I'm like, I guess I'll have to
Yeah,
try it. So I'm like, all right, guards sounds good to me. I'll just give that a shot and see where it goes from there.
that's the one I started with too. I've only read 2 or 3 of them, but guards was fun. It was fun. I would just describe it as fun, you know. Um, and it's so quick because like you've got the printed copy, like it's not thick. It's like kind of like that, but the actual margins and stuff, it's so small. The writing's so big that you'll get through it easy.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna struggle with the fact that there's not any chapters, but well,
Yeah, I read Equal Rights maybe a month ago, and it was okay, but it was yeah, I forgot that there has no chapters, so it's just constant. Yeah,
yeah, just no chapters whatsoever. It's just
yeah,
he's spewing it out. I'm like, all right,
yeah,
well, we'll see how that goes. I have a
yeah.
friend named Derry who really loves Discworld, so because again, Discworld was another one I was gonna read that last year, and then I just didn't get around to it because just a bunch of stuff came up, and then I'm like, you know what, this year I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Just gonna stop screwing around.
Yeah, see how far you go. The good thing is they're so short. Like I couldn't read all 40. I don't, or 41, however many there are. But I think picking and choosing's all right. It's the cool thing. You can multiple entry points to the series.
Yeah, some people are like Color of Magic, but I'm like, I've seen so many people give like Color of Magic like such a divided response. Like, I don't want to start with that. And they're like, well, guards. And I'm like, guards. It's kind of like a cop show. All right, I like cop stuff. Why not?
Yeah.
I'll give that. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
And people are going like, oh, but there's this other stuff like Mort. And I'm like, you told me not to start with Mort.
Yeah. I haven't
So
read
shut
Mort.
up.
I think Mort and Small Gods were ones that I wanted to get to.
Yeah, because like so many people are like, Death, man. Like, Death is so good. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
Like,
And sometimes, like, when I read too many books by an author, I'll get burnt out by their style, and so I'd rather read his, like, pick and choose really good ones that I wanted to read before if I burnt out of his his style. So yeah, Mort and Small Gods, I think, were 2 that I was going to get to.
yeah, so I have a bit of a stacked reading list this year so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Yeah, you do, and some like big ones too. I haven't read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which has been
it's really good.
like, yeah, it's been. I bought the copy like
It's
maybe.
I mean, I will say it is long. It will take some time, but you.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll take time, but it's worth the time. That's why I read Piranesi first, because I'm like,
Well, yeah, Piranesi was so good. I read that because I. Sorry. Do you need the car keys?
Someone needs
threw out
the
the
car
lounge room
keys.
there. Sorry. So I'm just staring off in the distance for the next 10 minutes. No, I don't have. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I bought that, and I've tried it maybe 3 times, and I do want to get into it, but it's just cold starts, So then, last year I read Piranesi, and it was just so good that, like, she can write these colossal books, but she wrote this really tight, like, Piranesi was so good, like, just how tight she wrote this this really psychological story, and yeah, so vivid.
I've heard it's kind of Gormenghasty, so I'm like, all right.
Yeah, there's a kind of like
I
that kooky British thing going on, like, yeah.
No, but Jonathan Strange, Mr. Norrell, I enjoyed a lot. I thought it was really good. Didn't quite, because I mean, I'm really picky with what I give 5 stars to, but Didn't quite get there, but it was very enjoyable. You know,
Yeah.
it was like it's like reading well, it kind of reminded me of like Neil Gaiman, but it was like, someone riffing from him, but it's not just like they're doing their own thing with it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'll try and get to it this year. I've maybe for the past couple of years, I've had like
Yeah,
too many
you
books
gotta set
reading.
some time for Strange and Norrell.
Yeah, and just so I've been reading. Like January last year, I was reading 18 books at once. Like my currently reading was 18 books, right?
That's
So I was like,
ridiculous.
far out, man, I got to
Like,
cull
wait, you
this
were
thing down.
reading all of them at the same time?
It was just like, so I'd be like listening to an audiobook and reading another book, and then
Oh,
I'll
okay.
be getting partway through it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, actually, I'll read this, and then so then I add that to the list, and then all of a sudden this list is like this long, and I'm still remembering bits of the stories. Like I'm like, oh, I'm still reading whatever book it was, but
Oh, okay, yeah.
But anyway, so I've culled it down. My goal this year is to just be like, I'm reading one book, just one book at a time.
I usually read about 2 at a time, and I'm like, and I just stop it there, and I'm like,
I've got to stop because I'm an addict, so I've got to cut back to just one because I can't trust myself.
That's fair, I guess. I won't judge you on that.
And like DNF more books, because the amount of times I've just tried to slog through and I'm really not enjoying myself.
Stop it. Sorry, it's my phone.
Yeah,
it's an alarm.
That's all right.
No, but continue what you were saying.
Oh, just yeah. So when I get around to Jonathan Strange, it'll just be that book, Jonathan Strange, nothing else.
Yeah, I have a hard time with just doing one. I'm just like, I want to read something else at the same time. So I stick with 2, and I'm like, I'm gonna get 2, maybe 3 if it's a real short book. But I'm just doing 2, nothing more.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. You know, it's but I think it's well worth the time. It's really, it's very British. So if you can get behind, if you like, British kind of humor and like just kind of, how do you describe Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell? It's a Regency epic fantasy, I guess, if you want to call it.
Yeah, and so I've read maybe the first 5 chapters, maybe 3 times, right? And
and it's a bunch of guys sitting around like talking about magic, and you're like, what the fuck? Who aren't the main
characters? It's cool. It comes in from a weird angle, like it talks about these people, but then it's you're following different people.
It's very meticulous. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think it's the tradition. Like so it's got like a lot of tradition in it, which is like what Gormenghast is. Gormenghast is like tradition to the point of it's like it's excessive. Like in Gormenghast, there's a character whose job it is to maintain tradition, like maintaining the tradition of the castle, and that. So at the start of the book, Titus Groan is born. That's basically how the book starts, and so then it's like
I heard this character named Steerpike, who's like a freaking awesome villain. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to see that.
It's weird. He's like a villain. Yes, he does some villainous stuff. Like when you get to it, you're like, oh, this guy's a villain. But it's also like compared to everyone else, he's still. Everyone's just so weird that you can't hate anyone. So even though it's not like a villain where you're like, oh, he's the bad guy. Like I really like him. But yeah, the tradition is a deep rooted part of it.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I really want to like it. I generally want to like books when I read them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
I know there's some people who are more critical than I am, which that's fine. But, like I don't think like with someone like Keely, I'm like it's really hard pressed to find him actually gushing over a book, Like there's always that really like hard critical kind of thing going. And I'm like, come on, let it out a little bit sometimes. It's okay to be passionate about things.
Come on, man, just be a little bit biased. Come on.
No, but no, I mean, unless it's Tolkien. I joked once. I'm like, good lord, it's just any opportunity to poke one at Tolkien, huh? He's like, well, he's an easy example, so what can you say? I'm like, yeah. I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, it's, how do I say it? It's like, I find it easier to poke at Tolkien when you think about Tolkien clones than actual Tolkien. Like when I go back to Tolkien,
Mm-hmm.
and even just moving aside from the Lord of the Rings, but if you think about like the Silmarillion or something, it's like, I don't know, you read this thing and it's like, I find it hard to criticize it that much because he was so wrapped up in his own world. Like I feel like even if it never got published, he still would have written it. You know what I mean? Like it's like he still would have done all this and created the languages and all that, even if no one ever knew about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was an interesting guy, that Tolkien.
Yeah.
He well, for one, he was an academic, so
Yeah.
he's probably gonna write a lot better than, random guy from, New Jersey or something. Like, I mean, I like George R. R. Martin though, so say whatever you want about that.
No, I mean he's a good writer. Like he writes well too.
Yeah.
I think he's got really.
Yeah, I
strong
was
prose.
so mad when he didn't like he didn't like the first law. I'm like, dude, it's so good though. Like,
He didn't.
no, he did not. Or well, he said he like tried the first book and he just stopped because he's like, this is bullshit.
Wow.
I'm like, man,
George R. R.
missing
Martin.
out. But I won't go too much into that.
Yeah.
I decided to do this kind of pre-Tolkien thing because I'm like, well, why not? Got nothing stopping me now. It's because last year I'm like, all right, I want to do these things and get that out of the way, and then I read a lot of stuff, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this pre-Tolkien thing this year, so that's gonna be fun. I'm gonna read more comics because I was a little disappointed with my comic intake last year. I read some great ones. Like I read Astro City and The Goon, which I enjoyed a lot. But I was kind of like, yeah, I could have done more. So hopefully, we'll get that going, or at least I will.
More of it. I rarely read them. I should read more. Last year I was reading a little bit, like near the end, but it was just like bits of Batman and stuff. Nothing too deep. Nothing too like.
Yeah, I'll just send you like Watchmen in the mail, and I'll be like, "This."
I've got Watchmen here. That's the only one I've. It's like that.
Then I'll text you and be like, "This will ruin your taste in comics, so proceed with caution."
Yeah, it's a little bit like with Malazan actually. When you get through that and you go back to try and read that kind of standard heroic fantasy, it's like, you kind of what you need. Like it's you need a better quality. You can't just have anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of people. I think what finally sold me on trying Malazan was the fact that that Erickson was not just kind of copying from the Tolkien model. He was pulling from other things, like Robert E. Howard and Fritz Leiber, and I think he even said Homer. And I'm like, well, I like the Odyssey.
Yeah, he talks about Homer a lot because he talks about archaeology a lot. His archaeology, and the archaeology does seep its way in there, especially with like different tribes and the way that tribes.
I thought he was an anthropologist. He's an archaeologist.
Oh, anthropologist, whichever one.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
a smart guy who looks at rocks. Yeah. So, but there's like the 10 very big books podcast, and they would read through. They would read each of the books, and at the end of each reading, they'd get him on for an episode and have a chat with him about. So at the end of Gardens of the Moon, they'll chat to him about Gardens of the Moon. But every time he comes on, it's been like, it's really insightful, like what he kind of opens up about the writing of the books and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. See how you like it. It's honestly not everyone's cup of tea. The thing that was going to turn me off actually was the fact of how many books there were, because it was like you've got his main 10 series, then you've got Ian Kem Esselmont's other like 6 or so of his main ones, and then they've got their own spin-offs again. So there's like 20 odd novels right now, or something like that.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, but I'm gonna just start with Gardens of the Moon and see where I go, because
And it's
Yeah.
very like Iliad, like like in the Iliad, you're thrown like straight into it. Like the Iliad
Yeah.
begins when you're 10 years into the battle, and you're straight into it. That's literally Gardens of the Moon does the exact same thing. Like just throws you straight in.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I kind of get frustrated with BookTube that is it kind of seems like there's a lot of people who like kind of don't understand a lot of the like history of fantasy and stuff like that. Which, look, I'm not
Yeah,
saying we should all like be scholars and whatnot. Like, you don't got to do that. But like, I don't like when people like throw out things like grimdark or whatever, because I just shake my head.
yeah,
So I'm like, there's other
yeah,
things they're pulling from here.
yeah, and just like looking at why they wrote what they wrote. Like, have you read Anna Smith Spark?
No, I want to though, because she seemed like she would really like appeal to me as a.
Yeah, she's really cool. And like last year when I released my novella, like I got some criticism from some people. Like most people were like, "Oh, this is really good," but some criticism, and it really shook me. And I reached out to her because her trilogy is so like polarizing, because it's really grim,
Mm-hmm.
and so and it's the way it's written. It's like really literary.
Mm-hmm.
And she uses like a lot of anachronisms. So she'll use like modern vernacular and stuff in this ancient Bronze Age, world and stuff like that. So it's really polarizing. A lot of people hate on it, but a lot of people absolutely love it. So I reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, how do you deal with the haters?" And she gave me like really good feedback and stuff. So, but yeah, no, she's really good.
Yeah, no, I guess what sold me on her. Well, I've seen her be interviewed by some like friends of mine on BookTube, but also she mentioned James Elroy, and I'm like, I like James Elroy. Can't go wrong with that. So yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see where I'm going. I'm actually hoping to read The Big Nowhere from James Elroy this year.
yep,
So we'll see where I get with that. Um,
yeah.
because crime fiction is another passion of mine, another genre I really enjoy.
That's really good. Like having not just the one, I'll talk to so many people who are into fantasy and like it's fantasy. That's all they want, fantasy. Um, but reading widely, like you'll read literary or crime or whatever. So
Well, I
I think
mean,
it's
we
really good.
have
And
we have the stuff that we like, but yeah, no,
yeah,
I get
yeah,
kind of I'm sometimes like, man, really really not. Got freaking 9. What is going on here? Why am I getting 9? 9. Oh, I got 9 like YouTube notifications all of a sudden. I'm like, so what happened? Did my video blow up or something? No,
did it?
no,
Oh,
it didn't. I just got some
it
comments from
didn't.
people. Like, someone was like, "Oh, I liked Perdido Street Station." I'm like, "Oh, it's very good. Glad to
Yeah,
hear you liked it."
I haven't finished it, to be honest. I got to finish it.
Yeah, that was
Um,
another one where I read it a few years ago, and it just was like, whoa. Like, I've never read
mm,
anything like that before. Well, okay, that's not necessarily true. Like, I've read some, like, Charles Dickens and, like, H.P. Lovecraft and stuff like that, but, like,
yeah,
I've never read anything quite like that before. It was so just
yeah.
freaking out there like that.
I got about halfway through it. I think I didn't. I get like. I think it was the fact that I was listening to it on an audiobook that I just sometimes like if the narrator's not working, it's like it can diminish the book. You
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, like the woman with the scarab as a head, and the big bird thing that needs to fly. I don't know. It's just so bizarre. I loved it.
Yeah, no,
Again, I got to finish it.
it's. I mean, it's what I liked about it. I'm like, yeah, he's freaking going for it, man.
Yeah,
Now, it's kind of like that with Black Leopard, Red Wolf as well for me. I was like, whoa, I didn't know you could do that. I've heard
yeah,
Malazan's kind of like that too, so we'll see when I get there. I heard
yeah,
there's like puppets and dinosaurs with sword arms.
yeah.
So
Yep. There's like all that sort of stuff where it's just like let's just push the boundaries of what kind of like in having races that aren't elves, dwarves, and all that sort of thing. It's having your own races and things.
yeah, I
And just
mean,
pushing it.
yeah, I'm looking forward to reading Malazan. I don't know when I'll get to Gardens of the Moon. I'm thinking sometime in the summer, but we'll see.
Yeah. It's a fun book.
Yeah, I mean it's
I know it sounds like I'm like yeah, there's like a bit of there's violence and stuff, and there's war and all of that, but it's also like it's because it's like it was a RPG they were playing when they like came up with the characters and stuff. So it's based like a lot of the scenes are based on their tabletop game. So it is kind of like action packed and fun, I think.
Yeah, I've been watching some videos about Malazan to kind of prep me for it, and there's some people who are like, "Oh, don't do it. Just go with the flow." And I'm like, I like analyzing things.
Yeah.
I like to prepare myself.
There's a lot to analyze, especially
don't judge me.
Yeah.
No, it's but yeah, it's one I'm looking forward to, but I'm also kind of wary of. But we'll see where I land when I get there.
Yeah.
I had a friend. His name's Jason. He runs a YouTube channel. He didn't like Gardens of the Moon very much, so I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird things. It seems like a very divisive kind of series. Like either you're gonna love it or hate it. Like there's not. Really
I think if you like a central character, then you're going to have a bad time. A lot of people who I've seen who are hating, just not liking it, are people who are very much like, I just love character driven, where it's only focusing on the character. Because Malazan, you might not run into a character for 3 or 4 books, because the scope's just so big.
I mean, there's pretty cool names though. Like Whiskey Jack's a pretty cool name.
Yeah. There is some cool names.
What's that guy's name? Animander Rake. I used to think it was Andromeda Lake, but I'm like, no, that's not right. That's that crappy Mass Effect game.
Yeah, and he's got like names, and then he'll have, because he's an anthropologist, he'll have like Animander Rake, and he was known as Animandaris, and he was known as this, and like he'll have like several. It's sort of like how.
So he literally has like a fictional. So he literally has like a fictional genealogy. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know how. Because he does wing writing it. Like he does kind of make stuff up as he goes along. Like it isn't as meticulous, I guess, but it is like, there's like a ton of characters, and but yeah, with the naming conventions, you'll have like stuff where it's like these gods who have got like this name, and then like 2,000, 3,000 years ago they were called this name or whatever. But then you've got other characters called Bottle or like Kettle or
what's that one
Smile.
guy's name? Like Krupp.
Yeah, Krupp.
It's kind of like his Tom Bombadil from some accounts, which I mean I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean I know he's not as touched by Tolkien as other fantasy authors have been.
Yeah.
Which, it's kind of one of my goals. I've been, like, ever since I saw Keely's stuff, I'm like, I'm going to track down some of these other fantasies and see what I'm missing out on, and see if there's...
And see, like, what they're getting at. Like, what do they... Because a lot of people...
What do they bring, if not, like, like the Tolkien-esque stuff? And I like the Tolkien-esque stuff. I like Game of Thrones. I like the First Law, even though I think First Law is more like Robert E. Howard than, like, Tolkien, but I digress.
Exactly, yeah. And like when they'll say like this, there's it's like this or Lord of the Rings, which one's the great trilogy? It's like, what are they looking for? Because this is it's very different. So what are they looking for in fantasy? It's really interesting, like the fantastical elements and the bizarreness and the absurdity and things like that.
Like I read Elric and I'm like, oh, this is fun. It's kind of like Conan on acid a little bit, but
I've never been able to do Elric because I don't know where to start. I know they've got those omnibus collections, but
the chronology gets really weird because Michael Moorcock has his multiverse thing going. Yeah. And I'm just like, what, dude?
And I was going to read Stormbringer, and it's like, don't read that till the very end. So I'm like, oh, that's the one that looks cool. Like, they all look cool, but Stormbringer would be good.
No, but I mean, I like some stuff. Like I like Harry Potter and the last Lord of the Rings, of course. I enjoy that.
Yep.
Game of Thrones, which I'm mad that they haven't finished it, but we'll see what happens. It is what it is. First Law, I enjoy it. It took me a while to get to the First Law, but I'm like, all right, this is good. I like this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Have you read The Black Company?
No. Though I've had some people go like, man, if you want some like other stuff, kind of like Malazan.
Yeah, it's very much like Black Company, especially because I read Black Company, I think, after maybe reading some Malazan, and you can like see where, because he really took influence from the Black Company, but even in like naming conventions, like the way that the characters are named in the Black Company are quite similar to Malazan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they have the tour essentials where you're at, but Steven Erickson did the introduction to one of the Black Company books. Apparently, that was a big
Right.
inspiration for him. So I'm like, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Haven't read any of these books, so I have no context whatsoever. But
have you read Thomas Covenant?
no, I've been kind of wary of that because I'm like, it sounds kind of like edgelord stuff. Like I don't want to read that. Have you? Have you read it?
Yeah.
Is it good?
I want to say yes, but it's like it's hard to explain because it's so hard to defend that book. But it's like, but I also really love it in the sense that like I love what he was trying to get at. I don't know if he necessarily pulled it off, but it was and it's one of those books where you read it and having read it, you're like, oh, I'm glad I read that. But in the experience of reading it, like I'm not necessarily enjoying myself. But it's inspired me to do like I'm like inspired to write something based on it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know some people who, like what do I call Tori? I call her a friend of mine. I don't know. But Tori from Tori Talks, I don't know if you watch her channel at all, but she really likes she likes Malazan a lot.
Yeah.
But she was kind of like on Black Company, so I was like,
Yeah.
it's weird how that works sometimes. Sometimes you go back because, like, and you're sometimes it just doesn't land with you the same.
Yeah, it's definitely more pulpy. It feels more pulp. And
yeah, I mean, there's like two people who have really touched how fantasy is kind of gone: Robert E. Howard and J.R.R. Tolkien. And there's probably going to be people who are being like, well, what about all these other guys? I'm like, just read their books, go back to Tolkien or Robert E. Howard, and you'll see where a lot of those ideas came from. Like,
exactly.
Or Neil Gaiman, because Neil Gaiman's like, I'm going to do my own thing over here.
Yeah. So like Solomon Kane and stuff, I read a bit of that as well as Conan.
Yeah, I don't think it's as good as Conan, but I like them. I have a fascination with Puritans, so there you go. It's probably why on that. But yeah, going back to Anna Smith Spark though, I would like to read some of her books at some point. It seems like something I would like. What it's like? What? Oh. I've heard her be called the Queen of Grimdark, which I mean, okay, that's a thing.
Yeah, it's you mentioned with Marlon James. You mentioned about reading it out loud. You kind of have to read it out loud, and Anna Smith Spark's a bit like that, where because it is like it's almost like poetry. Like it's like a poem. It's not written like that. It's prose, but it kind of is really poetic language, and she plays around with like the way the language works. And she'll just, for example, like in one of the books, there's a city getting completely destroyed, like walls melting, getting completely destroyed. And there's just, the chapter is just like one word, just like fire or whatever. Like she'll just have a one word chapter or like a couple of word chapter. And yeah, I don't know. But it is also really, really dark. But
yeah, I would like to read her stuff at some point. My reading list's kind of stacked right now, but maybe sometime in the future I'll get to her. First, she's done some standalones, so maybe I'll give one of those a crack.
I haven't read them, but she's super nice as well. Like I was on Instagram and I said some nice stuff about her. Where I was just like, I love Anna Smith Spark's writing, and she sent me like a whole bunch of postcards and stuff, all from Britton. So she's super nice.
But yeah, no, it's there's a lot of fantasy I'd like to get to at some point, like the Long Price Quartet and Discworld and Malazan and I got the King of Elfland's Daughter. I have Blood in the Mist over here, which I'll admit, and I hope my dad doesn't watch this, but I kind of don't like the really
Cover.
small font, but whatever.
Right.
And I'm not gonna tell my dad that because it's very small, but it's like a really, it's like such a neurotic thing to say. It's like the Vor. I want to finish that, and
Have you? So you've started that?
the Vor.
Yeah.
I read the first book.
Was it good?
I really thought it was interesting. It's really. I don't know if you've ever read Heart of Darkness, but it's basically kind of take Heart of Darkness and turn that into a fantasy, which is really quite neat.
That is cool.
I have the other 2 books of that saga, but I just haven't read them yet. So we'll see when I get there what I'll think. But it was one of those I respected it more than I was like, this is really like I respected it a lot, for like. That's another one kind of like not really touched as much by like Tolkien so much. It's more...
that's how I kind of feel with Thomas Covenant. And Thomas Covenant was like, it was a response to Tolkien. It's kind of like almost not an anti-Tolkien, but it is.
I saw, because I'm looking at your Goodreads, if you don't mind. I hope it's
that's okay. Go nuts. I can't remember what I gave it. Maybe
I
4 or 5
see
stars.
you recently gave 3 stars to Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. That's one of those series.
So I DNF'd it. So I've got to explain why I DNF'd that book.
Well, I mean, you gave it 3 stars, so it can't have been that bad.
I think so. It's like. So I was listening to the audiobook, and the audiobook was like, I don't want to, badmouth the guy, but it was like the voices were just too much, right? So I realized after about a year of going through it as an audiobook, I'm like, I'm probably not going to read this. So maybe I'll just try and physically read it, right? So I'm holding the book, but I can just hear this guy's voice, like while I'm reading it. And so he does this Binnabic voice. Binnabic, the little troll. He's like, just the way he does this like little voice of this troll. I'm reading. I'm like, I can't not. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to DNF this book.
Well, that's kind of weird. Okay.
Yeah, so I put it in the review. I'm like, hey, look, I'm gonna give it 3 stars because like world building wise and character wise, like I think it's a great book, and like I think it's like and I know that if I finish up,
so it's like the audiobook distracted you from like reading it. That's interesting.
From actually,
that's never happened. But usually, my issue with audiobook, I just get distracted really easily. I'm just like, I'll be listening to some, unless it's like Stephen Pacey or something, where I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I was just zoning out because I was just like, and like, look, he was a good narrator. I'm not vibing with it, and now it's stuck in my brain. So basically, I'm going to come back to Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn when I've completely forgotten the voice and what had happened in the story.
Yeah, I mean, I read Lonesome Dove last year, and there was one audiobook where the guy sounded like he had emphysema, and I'm like, well, I'm glad I didn't get that.
Yeah. Some narrators, it's
no,
but like it's a hard job. Like but it's I don't know. I'll come back to it. Also, just like that was part of me trying to, because at the moment I think I've got like 5 books reading at the moment. Like I'm still trying to cull this list down to 1. So I was like, look, I'm just going to DNF it for now.
That's fair. Yeah, it's. I very rarely DNF unless like a book is just not letting me in. Like I started a book called Motherless Brooklyn last year.
Yeah.
And it was just not. It wasn't doing it. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put so I don't really DNF. I have a not right now, if that makes sense.
And
I'll put it down. I'll maybe get back to it later. I'm not in any rush to, but I'll get back to it.
There should be a not right now category. Like it should be.
I know.
When I DNF, I'll just put DNF. But I'm like, usually in my review, I'll have like, I might come back to this.
NRN. Put it on the right NRN list.
Maybe later. Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. Let me. I mean, it's like this other fantasy. I'm sure I'm missing. Like, well, Gormenghast, but I'm kind of itching on Gormenghast. I'm thinking I'll start it in March, so we'll see where that goes. There's some other ones like well, let me see. The Great Wind, which is Alan Moore's new fantasy novel. I'd like to get to that. So there's a lot of fantasy I'd like to get to before I, up and die. which
Yeah,
hopefully will
which
be
is
very long time from now. But
it's not the end of the year, but well, hopefully it's a bit longer than that.
no, like some of Michael R. Fletcher's other stuff, because I read Beyond Redemption, and that was another book. I'm like, really respect the hell out of this book for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd say I enjoyed it, but I really respected the crap out of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because like my God, it gets really freaking like grotesque and nasty at points.
Yeah. I haven't read it. I've got it. I haven't read it. I've read Blackstone Heart.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was good. Yeah.
I've heard it's very like Moorcock-esque. Like there's a lot of weird multiverse stuff going on.
Yeah. There was something that I had a criticism of. I can't remember what it was. There was something that held me back from giving it like a really good review.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like world building wise and all that. It was really great. It was just there was something. I think. But yeah.
Yeah, I
he
mean
wrote
it's
some pretty bleak stuff.
and yeah, and then like then Indy freaking showed up, and I'm like, oh, why?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great
I'd
that
never
Indy's
really
becoming a big thing, but at the same time, I'm like, good lord, you're giving me all these other books I need to freaking read, like Wickwire Watch.
Yeah.
I want to try that, see how that goes.
Yeah. It wasn't until like last year that I'd really read any indie books, and it was only once I'd made like an Instagram account and people started reaching out, and then I'd making friends with people and then reading their books and stuff. But I'd never really read them, but now, yeah, as you say, there's a whole heap of stuff you got to read now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no, it's yeah, this is a lot of books. I mean, there's Book of the New Sun, which I guess is technically science fiction, but it's also kind of fantasy at the same time, but
Yeah,
that's one I'd like
that's a
to
good
try
book.
at some point. We'll see how that goes.
And
I've bounced off of Gene Wolfe twice now, so
oh really?
yeah.
What were you reading?
I read this one book called The Land Across, and I'm like, I have no freaking clue what's going on right now. So,
Yeah,
bad, not a good book. At least I didn't care for it. I'm sure there's people who like it. Good for you. I did not.
yeah,
And then I read The Wizard Knight. I read The Night, which is the first like volume of that, and I'm just like, good lord, he's just not letting you in, man.
mm-hmm.
So maybe Book of the New Sun, if I get to that, it'll finally click for me. But if this has happened twice now, I'm not liking my chances at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know if, well, I mean, oh, I'm sure there's other. Wheel of Time, I don't really want to, I don't really want to read Wheel of Time, to be
Have you
honest
read
with
it? Oh,
you.
you haven't?
I haven't read it.
I read the first 6, I think, but I it was 2020, like COVID. I'm like I burnt through the first 6, which is I think where it gets to the end of 6 is where it gets to the slog, like 7, 8, 9.
Uh-huh.
But I think I just burnt through them too quick, and I've got to go back and listen to it. They were good, like but at the same time, like 14 books, like come on.
Yeah, I mean that's my thing. I don't generally do like multi-book sagas unless they like really grab me. Like Harry Potter or Game of Thrones or.
Which is why what I'm working on at the moment, it was going to be a trilogy, but I'm kind of like I could probably condense this down to like a 300,000 word chunky novel.
Or if it's like a big series, if it's like episodic, like the Locke Lamora books, I'll read those,
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I have to really be like convinced that this book is like crazy fire before I get to like a 10-book series, which I finally got harassed into reading Malazan. So again, we'll see how it goes. Will it go well? I have no idea, but
It kind of goes both ways. It's like when I'm writing, I'm like, I don't want to waste too much of the reader's time. Like I don't want someone to sit there for a month or more reading this thing. I'd rather them just get in, get out. But then there's a lot of people who want more, and they want to sit there and spend a lot of time with books. So I don't know.
Yeah, they're just like they just want to like gorge on it. I'm like, look, that's fine.
Yeah, if you want to sit there for a couple of months reading like slow passages of people traveling, that's fine. But yeah, when I'm writing something, I'm like, I just want to get it as quick as I can. Not rushing, not pulp necessarily, but I don't want to waste time.
Yeah, I know. When I wrote my first book, I'm like, I want to be nice to my audience and give them like a nice, succinct.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be that guy who's like, oh, wait till you get to book 3 and it like really takes off. I'm like,
yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. It's like I
hate that so much. Yeah.
Kind of want to do it all as one trilogy, like in one book, because it's like you buy it, you've got the whole thing. You don't have to go and then spend more money on more stuff. Because
I know it's like I fucking hate when people say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait till book 2. I'm like, so I have to go through like a bad.
I have to read these books. Like that means this is not a good book. Like if I have to wait all that time to get there, like,
it just feels like I'm wasting time. Just I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Like if that's where the good stuff is, why don't we just write that bit? Why are we doing this first
I
part?
don't know. It's set up, I guess. But
yeah,
I mean, I do like a chunky, fantasy novel from time to time. I mean,
yeah,
Game of Thrones
fluctuate.
Is good.
Yeah.
But then again, like there's an arc in the first book of Game of Thrones. It's like Ned Stark does a thing, fails.
Yeah.
But it keeps going. Like,
that first book could almost be like a standalone almost.
Exactly.
Like you just wrapped it off a little bit. It would just stand by itself. It would be, a great book. But
I'm like, if there's if you want like a pointer on how to write a first book, I would probably say like, a Game of Thrones is like, in my opinion anyway, a good, or the Blade itself as well. It's like that's like a good book. You don't need a.
Yeah.
Now I hear that like Malazan just kind of throws you in the fray and.
Straight
Ericsson's like, good luck.
I think it's chapter 2 because there's like a siege of a city. Like chapter 2, like
good luck,
straight
bro.
into like this huge battle. Like it's. But that being said, like they refer to all this jargon and stuff, and so it's kind of hard. It can be hard to. I would just say go into it not just knowing that you're not going to know everything. But in terms of broad strokes of the story, you're going to be like, this is fine. It makes sense what's going on.
Yeah, when people say that, I just kind of go like, God, it makes me question how I read. I'm like, what do I want when I read? Mm-hmm. I'm like, I might just go with it.
But it's not an assessment, is it? Like, it's not homework. You're not reading it to be like assessed on it. It's like it's for enjoyment.
Exactly.
That was one of the things when reading Malazan. It was like, I'm like, getting deep into these like 1,200-page books, and you're like, I could actually be reading genuine history. Like, I could actually be learning something that's actually going to benefit my life right now.
I mean, it seems like you liked them.
I do. I love them, but it's at the same time, like it was always.
It can be tough. I hear you.
I was split. I'm like, man, like I'm sinking hours into learning about this Talano mass race of, desiccated humans and whatever. Like, yeah, I could be learning about the Greeks, or I could be learning about the Mongols or something.
I also see that you have Train Spotting the book on your read list, which I'm, I've not met many people who've actually sat down and read Train Spotting on BookTube.
I did the audiobook.
Oh,
because
did you get?
I did the audiobook.
I was about to say because I remember that's one of those. I'm like, it's kind of like a Clockwork Orange, where I'm like, you should watch the movie and just listen to how they talk, and then read the book, thinking of them talking, and it makes more sense. Because I remember reading it, I'm like, good Lord, what the hell is that? Like, what is this?
Yeah, can they be bothered? Yeah, like it's all in like dialect. I read Filth, and I finished it last year, Filth by Irvine Welsh, and that's all written the same way. So I have read a book in that style, and I don't find it that difficult, especially when like you're saying, like once you've got the voice and you know what voice they're going for, you're like,
this is
I can
great.
totally read this. It's great. Train Spotting.
I love the movie though. It's kind of hard because I'm like, man, I like the book a lot, but it's like I love the movie though. It's like
book goes so dark. Like that's that kind of thing where it's like the comedy and horror almost, where you've got like, oh man, like Train Spotting is
it's like the anti-Requiem for a Dream, where like Requiem for the Dream is just this bleak. I don't know if you've seen the movie or read the book at all, but it's just like this bleak does not let you out. Drugs are bad,
This is like the scenes in the book
where I'm like, with Train Spotting though, it's kind of like it it's horrible and it sucks, but there's never a dull day of being an addict.
No, because even like you're on board with them. Like it's I don't know, you're just following them around, and if you're, it's kind of like you say with Clockwork Orange. It's like if you're on Alex's side, like, and you're just walking around with him, you're gonna have a good time. But if you get in his way, it's not gonna be good. But I listened to the audiobook, and I think it was chapter 5, maybe. It like desensitized me to the C word. It was like bang, bang, bang. Like it was just. I'm like driving home from work, just listening to this guy basically having a rant.
They use the C word so much, and
they do. It's so
oh my God,
it's nonstop.
Like get to the Begbie parts, and he's just going this C word, that, and I'm like, dude, who are you even talking about? I have no idea.
It's all like in his head, and then but yeah, like the audiobook, I would 100% recommend it. Well, not anyone, obviously, I wouldn't give it to anyone, but it was just entertaining.
Yeah, I mean,
and I feel like you get more out of it too.
Yeah, I mean,
like if you don't.
Oh, sorry. You were gonna.
If you don't speak with that accent, I feel like you get more out of it. But yeah, no, sorry, you go.
But yeah, that's one of those. I'd be like, okay, watch the movie, listen to how they talk, then read the book. It'll make sense. Though there's like other stuff which they left out of the movie for probably good reason, because it's like.
Do you remember that story at the end where it kind of breaks away to like some other guy?
Yeah.
And he's at like the AIDS.
Yeah, and he like takes revenge on the guy who gave him AIDS.
That story.
I'm just like, what is that?
That story, and like it's like this. It's like a full short story just slapped in the middle of this novel, or not in the middle, but right at the end. And it's like it's a great story, but it's also horrific. But
I'm just like, what was that?
And how do you write that? Like, how do you write that story? But like, all right, I'm going to send that off to my editor now and see what they think.
I don't know.
If I wrote Trainspotting, I would not show anyone.
I think a lot of people would probably be like, "What is this? What are they saying?" Unless you're like with your Scottish bros, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is pretty good, guys."
Yeah. They did tone it down a lot though, because I don't know if you remember there's the baby crawling along the roof.
Oh God, yeah.
And it's saying, I'm not going to repeat it, but it's saying some stuff, and then in the movie they really toned that down. But yeah, which I
don't know how you could tone that down, because it's pretty horrific as it is in the movie.
Yeah.
And then the book, she's all like, "Ravish me," and Renton's just strung out of his mind. He's just like, "No."
It does make you also like not want to do drugs. So,
I'm just like, I don't want to do drugs. Stop.
As much as it's like there is positive, it's funny. It's like there is that part where he reaches into the toilet and pulls the drugs out.
Oh God, yeah.
He's just covered in, and it's like, don't do it. Don't get to that point where you have to do that. Like, that's insane.
I think my favorite scene in the movie is probably when he tries to get off drugs, and then he just like, and then he's like, oh God, now he's like, oh man, I have to get those. He's like, oh wait, I wanted one more to get me going before I do it, and he goes to like literally Irvine Welsh is the dealer, is giving him the stuff.
Yeah,
he has these pills. He's like, what the fuck is that? You know?
Yeah. Filth was also really good.
Yeah, I haven't read Filth. I know there's a movie with like James McAvoy, and he's just deranged in it. But you know,
it was good. It's like it's also just as deranged, and it's not so much drug abuse. It's more just the fact of like abuse of power, like him abusing his power as a cop, and because he's racist and sexist and all of these sorts of things. He's a horrible person, but it's good in the sense that it's like it's that same kind of like. You get into the mind of a person that you'd never want to be, or even be around. It's kind of like what you're saying with Lolita. Like I haven't read Lolita, but it's that kind of thing of like, what if I wrote this book from the perspective of someone who's not okay,
disgusting like that? Yeah,
and sometimes it's good to step out of yourself and be like, wow, the world is actually different. There's other people that are like really unlike me.
Yeah, or American Psycho, where you follow a literal
that was another one.
Serial murder.
When I read American Psycho, I was probably like maybe 19 or something, and I remember getting like little post-it notes and sticking them in, like because I'd be like, oh, look at this scene, how bad's this scene? Look at this. But I ended up donating the book to like a bookshop with all those sticky notes just left in it. Like I completely forgot to think about, so it's just like look like some creep with all these. Yeah, but there's some scenes in that that are just barbaric.
Some It's interesting comparing it to the movie because the movie kind of plays up the satire a bit. The book is
Absolutely.
like really
The
messed up
movie's
at points.
Yeah, the movie's fun. It's like you put the movie on, and even when he's running around with the chainsaw and stuff, you're like, this is like, this is fun. Like, and he's running from the cops, and you're like, this is so overblown, and he's like running, and it's over the top. But when you read the book, it's so bleak, and even like the ending where it's like, what's going on? It's so nihilistic. I think the book is just so dark and nihilistic, whereas the movie's like, it's not fun necessarily, but it's more satire, like you say, and it's more
the book's a
lighthearted.
satire too, but it's like,
Yeah,
it's the movie's more like,
yeah. You get it. Like you can be like,
like
oh,
he's
they're kind of,
he's kind of dancing in his little raincoat or whatever the hell that is before he kills
yeah,
Jared Leto.
yeah. But like the book is just, and because I think the book as well, it's like nearly 400 pages, and it's just so repetitive of like him talking about music he listens to, him like talking about food, or then talking about chopping someone up, and it's just repetitive. That there's no let up, there's no comical element necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, American Psycho's a different beast than
Yeah.
like something like Train Spotting, because Train Spotting's kind of, how do I describe Train Spotting?
Yeah, I feel like it's like Transpotting's like, it's probably like a really good depiction of what that group of people were doing at that time. Like I feel like that's probably why it's so highly regarded. Like
Why it's beloved by many.
like Glasgow, is it Glasgow or Edinburgh? I can't remember, but Scottish heroin addicts, like in the 90s or the 80s, like that. I feel like that's probably what it gets at really well. Just a depiction of that.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, I would agree with that. I mean it's kind of how would I describe it? It was a depiction of an era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a better way of saying it. Yeah.
It's also, I mean, it's kind of impressive they made the movie because it's because it's like it captures such a specific time, and you're just like, what?
And walking into a film studio with that book and being like, let's make this into a movie.
I don't know how Danny Boyle did it, but he did.
I don't know.
And
it's a good movie. Yeah,
it blew up. I love the
prefer
movie.
the book, but it is a good movie.
And I read the book, and I'm like, man, this is really or I mean, again, it was a little easier for me because I had seen the movie, and I'm like, okay, that's what they're taught. That's what they sound like, and that's why I'm trying to do more immersion reading this year because I'm trying to get more into the audiobook thing, which we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm going the opposite. I think I'm going to do fewer audiobooks this year.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't listen to it. Like, what are the only ones? The only ones like I've really listened to and enjoyed are the first Law books.
Mm-hmm. Stephen Pacey.
And the Lolita one with Jeremy Irons is very good.
Oh, cool.
Scar, yeah.
Scar.
He was also in like a movie version in like the 90s, but so that works out well, but his audiobook's really good. I think that's it, actually. I haven't done a lot of audiobooks.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, I've been listening to audiobooks for like I don't know, 15 years maybe.
And it's like years, yeah.
15 years, yeah. But that wasn't a flex. That was just
I know. I'm just
I couldn't bring myself to always read. I'm like, no, I'll watch TV or something instead. So anytime I was driving, I'd throw an audiobook on.
Watch TV and listen at the same time.
Oh no, like I wouldn't. I'd just be like, it was just I wasn't a great reader. That's what I mean.
It's like trying to watch Breaking Bad while listening to Train Spotting or something, and you're asking like your girlfriend or wife, like, what's going on? What's Walt doing? No. I don't know if you've watched Breaking Bad or
Yeah, but I have I did listen to an audiobook once playing GTA. Like I listened to Kazuo Ishiguro's Remains of the Day.
Mm.
You know,
That's been
I
kind
don't.
of blowing up on BookTube recently.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember much of the novel, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. But I spent maybe 7 hours just sitting there driving on GTA and just listening to the audiobook because I didn't want to spend all the fuel driving around.
Well, you ran out of
Um,
gas in GTA?
no, in my real car, like I was like, because
Oh.
I'd usually go for a drive and listen to an audiobook, and I just couldn't be bothered driving.
Oh, well, yeah, that
I wouldn't
happens.
recommend it. Kind of ruined the book, but it was
Yeah,
alright.
I'm always nervous about doing something like that because
Mhm.
I'm always like paranoid that I'll like not notice something and get into a car accident or something. Maybe
Oh, audiobook one. Yeah.
like listening
I,
to
f-
an audiobook while driving, which I'll admit the likelihood of that happening is probably not very much, but you know,
yeah.
I don't want it happening.
Yeah. I feel like with audiobooks, I I listen to like the paragraphs, not so much the sentences.
Oh yeah.
So like when I'm reading, I'll be like reading each sentence, but when it's an audiobook, I'll be like listening to the general gist of each paragraph. So I think
Mm.
I'd probably retain less and learn less, but yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. I also see you have some other because I'm looking through your thing again.
Hmm.
You see, you've also read Tale of Two Cities. It's a really good book.
That is such a good book. I was thinking about it actually earlier today because I was thinking about you talking about Gormenghast, and then I was thinking about all of that. But Tale of Two Cities is such a good book.
I think it was the Dickensian reference to Gormenghast that sold me
Yeah,
on it.
I think it's the how Dickensian. Yep.
Well,
Um,
that and the fact that the Tolkien the people who don't like Tolkien think that that's the fantasy classic. So I'm like, all right, I'll
yeah.
see what you're talking about.
Okay, let's see what you're coming at. Yeah. Yeah. Tale of Two Cities is. That was kind of like an inspiration for what I was writing with fantasy actually early on.
Really,
Um,
it's interesting.
just like the way, especially those opening scenes. Like there's a scene with like the carriage riding some of the banker or whatever riding in the carriage. Like that scene, some of the scenes were really stick, and jumping around POVs and stuff. And I know that they'd done it in Game of Thrones, but I like the way that Dickens did it. Like it's kind of how Joe Abercrombie does it, where it's like, yeah, I don't know, it was good. And Train Spotting actually as well is an influence on the book.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, because it's all first person.
I'm
It's
curious
like first
when
person.
you put it out and you get like you go on like I don't know Bearded
Yeah,
Darkness or something. It'll be like, oh, so what like got you to do it? And you bring up Train Spotting. Now
yeah.
maybe he's seen
I,
the movie.
I
I don't know, but he'd probably be like, what the fuck is that?
I was describing it like last year. I was describing it as like Don Quixote meets Train Spotting. Like it's this knight, this not a knight, but it's like a mercenary going across the country. But he's kind of telling his story. It's like it's first person, but he doesn't have a filter. Like he just like will say stuff, and it doesn't go to the extent of Train Spotting. Like I'm not dropping 20 C bombs on a page, um,
Well,
but it does it. He does, it is
I
kind of
can't
bawdy and
really like. Like I don't
yeah.
really like the C word, but it's like,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
kind of, it's one of those things.
Yeah. So no, like, but I guess in the way it was told, like Train Spotting was an influence.
So wait, are you like, are you like Australian or are you
Yeah,
from New Zealand?
Australian.
Oh, I was talking about it with my mom the other day, and we were like, "Oh, crikey!" And I'm like, "Oh wait,
Yeah,
maybe he's from New
New
Zealand,
Zealand.
so no
I
crikeys."
don't know what they say there. I don't know what their crikey is. Yeah,
Or unless it's like a overused thing in Australia, and the Australians just roll their eyes at it at this
yeah, pretty
point.
much. No, I've not actually heard anyone really say it in real life. Yeah, there's like a bunch of that sort of stuff. It's probably the same with you guys. Like you're from Oklahoma, so there's like probably a lot of stereotypes that you get that you're like, that's not true. Like no one does
Oh
this.
yeah, the wackiest I've ever heard. My parents knew this guy from the Bahamas. His name's Kevin.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Oh, you guys live in teepees?" And we're like, and my parents were like, "No, we do not. We have
yeah,
cities."
yeah,
I'm like, all right, like
yeah, exactly.
I think the worst
But
I've heard in my lifetime is like a bunch of people think like we're a bunch of hicks and there's like a bunch of like fields and stuff. I'm like, we have cities, they exist.
yeah, yeah. You guys have cities there.
I'm like, if you drive out about like 2 hours, you'll find the the fields, but like we got cities
Yeah.
over here,
That's like here. Like, if you drive 2 hours or something, it'll be it's just bushland. It's just rugged, but there's cities, there's people.
Yeah, I've always wanted
Not as
to.
many,
I've
but
always wanted to try going to Australia, and my
you
friend
should.
Darius from New Zealand is like, "Why don't you come to New Zealand? We got Hobbit land over there." And I'm like,
Yeah,
but I want to see the outback.
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to get stuck out there because that would be a bad time. But I
yeah.
would
It'd be
like
horrible.
to.
I've never actually been, but
I would like
that'd
to
be
go
good.
out to the outback at some point. That'd be fun.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be good.
Maybe not out there by myself. Like a
Yeah, probably with a guide or
controlled
something,
controlled environment.
a busload of people or something.
So what are some books you're hoping to get to in 2025? What are some
To
books you
read,
are
well,
reading in 2025?
I'm
Either
currently
right now
reading
or in the near future.
Gateway by Frederick Pohl. I'm finishing this off.
I've heard of that
It's one of
name.
those.
I know he's like a
Yeah,
classic sci-fi writer.
he is. This is pretty cool. Yeah, it's like this like alien artifact that kind of comes into the galaxy, and then it's full of like ships, and the ships go places,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a gamble as to whether you'll die or not. So people go out there to try, and it's almost like get your earn your luck or whatever. This year, what are some books I'm trying to get to? Like the Brothers Karamazov, I want to read. So Dostoevsky,
Mm.
that's been on the list for a while.
He's one I've been
Um,
intimidated to try, like
yeah,
Crime and Punishment. I've had friends who are like, man, Crime and Punishment's so good, Britton. I'm like, I don't know.
it is. It's really good. It just makes you feel like you've murdered someone. That's the problem. He's actually so good that you feel the
Damn.
dread and the guilt, like because basically, like, and it's like it's not really a spoiler, but he murders this woman and another woman, and that's like the first little bit of the book, and the rest of the book is him kind of like dealing with that grief and stuff, and so you really feel it.
So he's like coping with the fact that he killed somebody.
Yeah, and like there's an investigation, him trying to like toss up with himself whether to come forward, and then because not to spoil it, yeah, because it's like he did it, to try and help his family as well. So because he wants to help his family, but then their prospects start going up anyway. So he's like, he's kind of like battling with himself, and it's the guilt over what he's done and all of that. It's a really psychological novel, but it's so good. But it's it's kind of like Blood Meridian, where you're like, it was a great book, but also
It's
I don't know if
really
I necessarily
intense.
enjoyed my time. Yeah,
It's really intense, and you have to
yeah.
kind of,
It's not
yeah.
it's not really violent or anything, but it's except for the murder. But yeah.
But it's like
Um,
emotionally intense. I hear you.
that's a good way of it. Yeah. I'm trying to
Ye-
think of what I was going to read. It's my phone. Um, yeah. I was actually going to do PewDiePie's reading list this year.
PewDiePie's reading list, huh? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
he's got a
forgot he reads a little bit. Yeah, he
yeah,
read
he reads a
Dune,
little.
didn't he?
Oh, probably I haven't seen him read June, but he yeah, he's just like a book a month. They're not like long or anything. Except they're all philosophy, which is great. But he's going to try and read Kant in a month, which is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. So are you gonna read some romantasy?
Maybe.
I was just kidding when I
I mean,
asked that.
I would do it maybe because if I did it, then I could do some reviews and then get some views and then maybe get some more followers. So maybe, but
I was just
I don't
kidding
know.
about
I
that.
know. Do you read much romantasy, dude?
No, I tried. I tried. What did I try? I tried Fourth Wing, but I'm like,
Oh yeah.
world building makes no sense.
Hmm.
This story makes no sense. This is
Yeah.
stupid. And I put it down. I'm not gonna like this. I feel it's like
Yeah.
I would just feel, I just feel wrong reading the whole thing, because it's just like, if you like it, that's great, but it's just like this
Yeah.
makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. It's just not your thing. So Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, I'll get to. I was going to try and finish off some of the Foundation books. So Asimov's Foundation.
Yeah. I've only read
Yeah.
iRobot from him.
Yep. I read bits and pieces. I have read the first Foundation book, and it was good. But it's one of those things like where you go back to reading, like when you read Conan and you're like, oh, that's where all these tropes came from, like, or it's so
And they're
like
also really good too.
yeah,
Like,
you go back to Foundation and it's like, oh, this is where the idea of a galactic empire came from, and like so much of it's like these ideas that have been used in Star Wars and Star Trek later on. It's all in this book, so I'll jump into that. What else? I'm trying to keep it loosey goosey this year and just go with whatever comes up. I'm not,
loosey goosey.
I was going to read a little bit of Plutarch's lives, but yeah, loosey goosey.
So Plutarch said loosey goosey in one of his books at one point. That's
Yeah, no. Oh no, I was going to read some Plutarch, but yes, he probably said loosey goosey at some point. I'm sure he did. But his Greek lives, I reckon he wrote it probably about like Alexander or something.
no, it's just funny
yeah.
you said that. Yeah. Oh no, it's I see you also read some like science fiction. Is you've read some Philip K. Dick. I am a huge PKD fan.
I finished this the other week, Ubik.
Yeah, I read that last year. I thought it was pretty good, but I was like, I don't know what's so special about this. But I liked it. It's still like Philip K. Dick, like the bits where he tries to pay his door. I'm like, that's fucking great. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I laughed my ass off during that.
Philip K. Dick always has these moments in the books where I'm like, oh, he could have done this thing with it. So in Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, there's a moment where he goes to the police station and they basically are trying to convince him that he's not a cop. I don't know if you remember that bit.
Oh yeah,
they're trying to be like, and like that would have been like just such a, which is either way when it was fine, but it just gives me these ideas of like, oh, like what if he actually was, it was all a delusion. And Ubik has some similar things. I feel like he started off I really loved it, but he started off the novel with like talking about the psychic, being able to like psychically cancel out other people, but then it kind of like took this whole left turn and just went down this other road of like them being in the machine and stuff. But no, it was cool. I'll try and read more of his this year. The first book I tried reading of his was Valis, and I tried like so many times.
Oh man, it's like starting
the worst place.
It's like starting Cormac McCarthy with Blood Meridian. Like you're just gonna get like, what the fuck is this?
What is going on? Yeah, because I was like, it has such a killer opening line. The opening line was so good. About her asking for some drugs to overdose. She's like, oh, she called me and asked for these drugs to overdose. I was like, that's such a great opening paragraph of this book. But it was when he was like, I remember you were talking about like phases. You got to read phases of Philip K. Dick. He had like his pulpy era, and he's got these other, and then it gets wackier and wackier as he gets more sort of psychotic.
Yeah, there's like the pulp Philip K. Dick's, humble pulp origins. Then there's he's discovering all this weird stuff and drugs and, kind of going off with that. And then we get into like the weird religious visionary, this guy probably lost his mind at some point.
Where God's like communicating through his brain and all this. And I was like, this book's just weird. So I didn't
There's some of his I want to read though, like Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said, and...
Yeah, I've got that too. That's on the list.
3 Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch.
Yeah.
So, the fun thing about PKD is he wrote a lot, so it's plenty to eat at. There's plenty to chew.
When you read those, I'll read those when you read those, and then we can talk about it. Because I went out and bought a bunch of his the other day. So
yeah, I'm like a real hardcore like sci-fi snob, so I get real particular about what I like in science fiction. Like I read Ted Chiang's or Chang, or I don't know how you pronounce his last name, but I read his
collection of stories.
Yeah, the Stories of Your Life, I think is what it's called. And people are like, "Man, this was so good," and I'm like, "Yeah, it was fine. It was fine."
Yeah, he's like brand of sci-fi is that kind of like just a little bit in the future,
Yeah, they're kind of like thought experiments,
Yeah, and
more than like stories, which is like that's fine,
Did it have that story of the one where it's like the little box that like the light comes on before you press it or whatever? And it's about free will. He has it.
I've heard his other collection's really good, so maybe I'll try that and I'll be like, and I'll get like red pilled on Ted Chiang, but we'll see. Like, I really like Jeff Vandermeer a lot. I mean, I read Absolution few weeks ago, and I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of meh. But the trilogy preceding that is very good. So there
Yeah,
you go.
I haven't read it. I've seen, or maybe saw like half the film. Um,
You're always like reading half of stuff and like
Dude, I know.
dropping stuff. Like, what are you
So like
doing, man?
watching half a film is like my life. No, I watched half the film because I was watching it and I was like, oh, I should probably read the book because I don't really know what's going on here. So, and then I just never really
They're
got around to
very
it.
different, so you'll probably be thrown off if you
Right,
read the book. But
right,
they're both very good. So
yeah. But yeah, no, I have a tendency to just get halfway through things and be like, nah.
yeah, no, my sci-fi's been slacking. I've read like I want to read more PKD and
Mhm.
more like I want to find some like really like good sci-fi, and it's really hard to find
Yeah,
any. I think I've
I've been reading Rise of Endymion at the moment, trying to finish off that
maybe I'll give like the
cantos.
Masterworks, see if I find anything of interest for me.
I'm surprised at like some of them. It's like this Gateway. Like I'm surprised at just how kind of the ideas in it. Like like the classic sci-fi. It's like one of the criticisms is like the character development. Usually the characters are kind of like missing. Lacking. I have like the actual ideas in it are so amazing.
Well, with science fiction, you can kind of get away with that
Mm.
because
Like Rendezvous with Rama. Um, that that's like it's a fantastic idea, but the characters are a bit like but it doesn't matter because it's all about this object, coming into the solar system and stuff.
yeah, I've read Childhood's End from Arthur C. Clarke, which I really like a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I haven't read that,
It's a good one.
but I will
Though
get
don't
to it.
expect like don't expect like a deeply character-driven experience.
No, I read the Forever War last year.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty good. That was
Heard that
like
one's
quick.
pretty good.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's kind of a hardcore sci-fi aficionado like myself who liked it, so I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot
Yep.
at some point. Because like, there's a lot of that sci-fi in like the '60s and '70s during like the Philip K. Dick era, where it's like they
Mm-hmm.
just really were going off and experimenting for the sake of it, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know, but we'll see. We'll
It's
see
like
about Forever War.
Roger Zelazny. Some of his stuff is like that.
Yeah, I'd like to try Zelazny at some point. I don't know where to start.
So I read.
A lot of people have told
I
me
read.
Amber.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't read that, but I've got it. But and that will probably move up on my list this year. But what was the book I read? The one that won the Hugo with Dune. It came out the same year as Dune, and it won
Oh, I can't think
dual
of it.
Hugo.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name of it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, like I'm not a huge Dune fan. Like I gave it like a 3-star. It was
Oh yeah,
fine, but it didn't like
I
it didn't
did you
rewire
read,
my brain as some.
no? Did you read the sequels?
No, but I've heard like I know what happens. I know like
Mm.
Paul basically like becomes like a dictator slash. He's just gonna murder a shitload of people.
Yeah, like 60 billion people or something. Yeah, no, when I first read Dune, I didn't really think much of it. I was like, oh, it was okay. It kind of ends on a weird. I think it ends on a weird cliffhanger. And it was
He's all like,
maybe a
"I
year or
am a
two after that, I read.
god," and I'm just like, "All right, buddy, calm down."
Yeah, then it ends with like Jessica being like, "History will call us wives," and you're like, "That's an odd place to end this story." But it wasn't until I read the second one that I was like, "Oh, this is really good." And then I basically read through the others. But it does get really whacked out with like God Emperor and stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like
The book is This Immortal by Roger Zelazny that I was thinking of. This
oh,
Immortal. It
well,
won.
I haven't
I think it won the
read them.
Hugo.
I haven't read them, so
Mm,
I don't
yeah.
know. I read a book called Light in 2023 by M. John
Hmm.
Harrison that I thought was really bold in terms of where it was
Yeah.
going. Kind of PKD-esque, I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
He is a bit like that.
I don't know if you've read
Yeah.
M. John Harrison. I've only read The Centauri Device, which is kind of proto cyberpunk, which is fine, but it
Yeah.
didn't really grab me. And then Light,
I
which
just
that was another one. I'm like, I really respect the hell out of this, for
yeah.
doing these things, even if it didn't do everything that I generally like in a book.
He's is it Vericonium, the trilogy
Yeah, Vericonium.
where it's like, and because his approach is that kind of, and I think JG Keely talked about him a lot actually too, because his approach to like world building is like not Tolkien-esque, So he's, for example, I think the city or the world in Vericonium, the books, changes between the books. So it's not like a consistently, this is a map of the world, this is what the world looks like. It's like between each book, it
Oh
looks
yeah, I
different,
saw like because I was doing some like background like homework a little bit before I got on here today. Apparently, you don't
Yeah.
do fantasy maps.
Yeah.
You're not interested in
I
fantasy maps. And I'm just like,
No,
that made me
that is not
really really
true.
sad.
I know I do like fantasy maps.
I'm like, you're not gonna
It's
have a fantasy
hilarious.
map in your book.
No, I might.
But no,
Actually, I'm actually thinking of. No, I just don't think that they're super necessary. I think that was my argument. I was
Oh,
like,
okay, yeah.
when
Well,
and so what
I
basically
like them
happens.
because I like to sometimes like flip back and be like,
Yeah,
oh, that's what they're at. Okay,
look, I love looking at them. Like I think they're great. I just when I'm reading the book, I don't really look at them.
Yeah, I'm the
That was
same
my
way. I'm
argument.
really bad at
And
it.
they're basically the guy who asked me. I was on a podcast and he asked me like, oh, your world building process, like what's it like and stuff. And I kind of I think I just went on the map thing, but yeah, I do like maps. I was thinking of like tongue in cheek, just including like I'm thinking of putting like 15 maps in my book because I've become known as like this guy who hates maps, and which I think is hilarious. Like I actually don't hate maps. I think it's whatever you want to do.
I like
I just
what
don't think
it's
they're
kind of that
necessary.
trend you see when someone's like, I kind of view it a little differently than other people, and then other people are
Yeah,
like, you just hate maps, and then you're just like, no, I don't. Oh, I'm sorry. Why did I ever
yeah,
open my mouth to begin with?
yeah. Because it's like it sort of gets blown out of proportion. Like no, that's
Yeah.
not what I meant. But yeah, I just think I also kind of like not being stuck. People would call it world building. They're like, no, this is world building. You have to have your world set in stone. And I'm like, I don't know. I think sometimes I really like the magical realism take. So you like
Mm.
magical realism where it's like it's fantastical and it's magical to the point that it's not always tied down.
Hmm.
And I don't know that I kind of like that. I think that's why those proto and pre-Tolkien people like why stuff like Gormenghast is like so beloved by the other side because it doesn't do that what Tolkien did. Like Tolkien ties it down. He's like, no, this is what Middle Earth looks like. This is what Beleriand
Here's
look
its
like.
moon
This is
cycle.
here is exactly the. And I have like the nature of Middle. Like I love Middle Earth. Like I have them all these books.
Well,
And I've
yeah,
got the
we were
nature.
talking about how much you like
Yeah,
Tolkien earlier, so I'm
I
not.
have the nature of Middle Earth, and the nature of Middle Earth. I haven't read it yet because I'm looking at it, and it's literally got tables full of elf lives, like how long elven lives go, and it's like, okay, like that's cool. Like that's
That's
one side. I
awesome,
feel
but
like
like
the
that's
flip
not.
side, yeah, is this like magical realism where it kind of doesn't matter. Like it's kind of like, uh, yeah, does it serve the purpose of the story? Is it entertaining? And people get hung up on the distinction. So yeah, the map thing, I think so there was a couple of ideas. Firstly, I was going to include maybe 15 maps in my book. Some of them like meticulous maps of like just like a toilet, right? Like this is the map of the toilet that he goes to, whatever. I was also thinking of maybe opening it up to people to be like, I'm going to get 5 people to draw the map of the world, and all 5 of them are canon, right? Like there's no one tied down.
I'll
Like
tell
there was
you a
all these,
funny. I'll tell you a little funny story because you brought up M. John Harrison in Keely.
yeah,
It was really funny when R. Scott Baker blew up on BookTube because Keely actually got into like a little, not really a spat, but it was kind of like a
yeah,
debate with Baker or Backer, however you pronounce his name.
yeah. I think it's Baker, but it's
It was
like yeah,
about
double
it was
K.
about world building because M. John Harrison, like you said, he's very non-traditional about world building. He's like
Hmm.
he just kind of makes it up as it's going along.
Yeah,
And Baker's more structured in how he world
yeah,
builds. I
yeah.
don't think there's anything wrong with either or approach, really. But I often say when I tell this story to friends of mine, I'm like, it's about far nerdier shit than like you or I will probably deal
Hmm.
with. But
Yeah.
but just kind of his response, I was like, I don't know if I want to read that, because like really like defensive authors like that, I'm like, I don't know, but
Is that Baker or M. John Harrison?
Baker.
I haven't read his like, and
Maybe
like
though. I've
it's on
been
the list. Like I want to.
I have some friends who have kind of been like, okay, he's pretty good, and he does all this stuff, and I'm like, all right, I'll give it a
My thing has
shot.
just been, I feel like, especially with a lot of fantasy, like people get very stuck in their ways of like what it should be, So people are like, when you have a fantasy book, it needs to have, maps. It needs to have this world building. It needs to have explanations in a certain way. I feel like it can get very, there's a lot of musts, and sometimes I just feel like not doing any of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the Gardens of the Moon reviews on Goodreads.
Oh, yeah.
It's very
They're
a bit all over the place.
Well, by the time you get to the third book, this is the thing. So if you read the first two books, you'll get to the third. But most of the people that hang around, they're on board, and I don't know. The third book is just so good. The second book's really good. They're all good. What am I saying? They're all good. They're all good.
I'm like, well, don't inadvertently talk me out of reading Malazan.
No, I'm saying like you should stick with it, but when you get into it, go up at least until the third, because it's just.
Yeah, like the most critiques I hear is he throws a bunch of shit at you, or you can't really like sit down. I don't know what you think of that, but it's just kind of.
Yeah, but it's also like, I don't know. It's like you don't necessarily need everything explained. Like it's.
Mm-hmm.
For example, it starts off, there's a battle you don't necessarily know, but you're following these people, so therefore your perspective is with these people. So it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you just got to read it. The first book's only like 600, 700 pages. 700 pages, I think. Yeah, getting fact checked.
Yeah, let me see how long this copy is. I'll give you some grace. It's
my copy's 702 pages.
It's actually 666 pages. So this book is cursed. That's what I'll say. This version anyway.
You're missing a whole chapter or two. Yeah. See, it's not too long, especially because the later ones get like 1,300.
Yeah,
that's not to talk you out of it.
I mean, I'm not like, I have a friend who's like, I prefer shorter books, and I'm like, why? It's just it's like I have the guy Brian Bell. He often says it is just a book at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So like, just
whether it's longer
get the
or
fuck
shorter,
over yourself.
No.
But I see you've also read Robin Hobb. That's another one I need to get to before too long.
Yeah. I only read the first one. I've got to reread it, actually. I read the first one, and I've been meaning to read the second for probably like 10 years, maybe. But things get in the way.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. I know what you mean. It's
and it's like a 16-book series, and so which it's series, like it's trilogy, whatever. But it's like, yeah, so big. But yeah, she was a really good writer.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to Malazan. I'm hoping it's good.
Yeah,
because I want to like I said, I want to like things at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm not JG Keely, who's like super like.
Does he watch your videos?
Does he? I don't know. I have corresponded with him, and I have told him about my YouTube channel, but I don't know if he watches it. So it would be pretty fun if he watched it, because he'd probably. Though on the same time, it's probably good he doesn't, because he would probably destroy a lot of my opinions.
His review would be like, this podcast is like Tolkien. I don't like it.
I don't know.
Yeah. This should be more like Conan.
No, but it's just kind of. There's just a lot of fantasy I want to try before I go. And then there's indie fantasy. I'm like, geez, man, are you kidding me? Like, come on.
Yeah, and it's good. Like it is.
It's great, but at the same time, you're just like, dude, I'm trying to like read these series, man.
Because you get I don't know how many DMs you get about like, hey man, here's my arc. Do you want to read my arc? And I'm like, I don't have time.
Yeah, I'm thinking about going. Son of a bitch. I'm thinking about going self-pub with mine, And I'm just like, oh god, I'm kind of dreading when I have to send ARCs out because like, who the fuck's gonna read this? You know. I mean, it's not gonna be too much of a chore. It's like 256 pages of what I got, so it won't be
I'd read it.
that bad. But you know, it's kind
But
of
it's like I feel like it's if you know a person, like it's fine. Like like if you send it to me, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll read it. But it's like sometimes you get these unsolicited, like a random person be like, like they don't even follow you. They're just like, hey, can you read this? And then
yeah, I'll
you're
probably
like,
send it to people I know. Like when that time comes, I'll be like,
and if it takes me like, just say it took me 5 hours to read your book, right? Not you, but like this person, right? If it took me 5 hours, like if I went to work, I would expect like a certain amount of pay, right? So it's like I'm going to be putting like 5 hours of my life into reading this book, you know. So yeah. So I'm in the same boat where I was like trying to find people who are going to read your arc, but yeah.
you know, I've looked at Anna Smith Sparks stuff, and I'm like, and she's mentioned that like she used to be like a bureaucrat. I'm just reading off her Goodreads
I think she
page
was like an
here.
erotic lingerie model as
Petty
well.
bureaucrat, English teacher, and fetish model. And I'm like, what the
That's
hell
right,
does that
fetish
mean?
model.
And I'm
Yeah,
just like, what does this mean?
she's done it all, man.
What?
She's the queen of grimdark. Yeah,
No, I'm just meaning like, what does that mean though? Like she's
I think
where
she just like went to conventions and like modeled like
I'm like, so
leathers
does she
and
like dress up in
lingerie.
like dominatrix stuff? like,
Yeah, dude.
maybe
Just Google
maybe
her and then hit images, and you'll see. I feel
like
like
maybe
you'll see.
one
Let's have a
day
look.
if I have her on this podcast, I'll be like, so fetish model, what does this mean? Do you dress up in like dominatrix stuff? Well, you know, I don't know. Maybe, if
Yeah,
she doesn't mind talking about it, that is. I don't
I
know.
feel like I saw a photo. Like, yeah, I think she goes to like conventions and stuff. But yeah,
No, but it's it's just. But yeah, 2025 is gonna be a fun year. Hopefully, if I even get to all the stuff that I would want to. Which
you will.
I'm thinking I will, because like King Elfland's Daughter and Lead in the Mist. The fun thing about those is those are just one books.
Yeah, you just got to get a magnifying glass now, just to read that Blood in the Mist.
No, I mean I'm sure it'll be fine.
You just
I
be like
can
this, staring at it.
yeah, but it's just like, man, like
Dad.
there's this
Yeah,
really beautiful copy I saw on Amazon. I was like, I wanted to pick that up, but yeah, well, it's too late
yeah,
now. Or maybe I could. I don't know. But it's just kind of like there's some other books I would like to get to. Like, let me.
Do you have a lot of bookshelves?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I have a bookshelf right there. I have a bookshelf in front of me right here. I have
Yeah,
books. I just have books laying around. I have a little book thing over there. I've thought about
yeah,
getting another shelf, but we'll
yeah,
see how that goes.
yeah. I've had to try and cut my physical buying to now just getting ebooks because I don't have the space.
I would do that, but I just get real discombobulated reading on like my phone. Like I just get
Yeah,
real. But it's not bad. It's
yeah. I think it depends on the book. Like, obviously, if it's a really good book, I'm going to buy a physical copy. Like, yeah,
yeah. It's how would I describe it? It's I don't know. It's the book life, I'll put it
yeah,
that way. I
yeah,
don't know what I was gonna say, but I forgot what I was gonna say. But
yeah.
we're here now. It's just kind of. I guess I'll ask you about horror real quick. Who are some of your like favorite horror writers?
Besides Stephen King, um,
Well,
Clive Barker.
Stephen King counts. That's fine. I like Stephen King
Yeah,
too. I
yeah.
think he
No, like
does so much more than horror.
I think he
If
does
you
too.
don't mind
Yeah,
me going on a little non sequitur real quick before I let
go
you
for it.
continue, it always frustrates me when I see the horror section and it's just all of Stephen King's books. I'm like, guys, he's so much more than horror. Like
Yeah,
11/22/63, that's not a horror book. There's horror
that's
elements in there.
such a good book too.
There's some.
That's an
That's a
amazing
great
book.
book, but
Yeah, exactly. He's not just a horror. He's like he gets the character
Like to
and
put the
has the
Dark
situation.
Tower in there. I'm like, that's a fantasy series. Like put that in the
Right. Yeah.
fantasy section.
Yeah.
You know.
But besides him, like yeah, Clive Barker. I love Clive Barker's stuff. He um he doesn't hold back.
I've wanted
Like
to read Clive Barker for years. I just don't know where to start because he's kind of one of those like
yeah,
Michael Moorcock or even Stephen King himself. He has like this big like universe of characters and ideas and stuff.
I'd say like his Books of Blood. There's like it's a 2 volume, just basically his collected short stories.
Mm-hmm.
Books of Blood. There's actually I think it's six volumes, but then they got omnibused into 2. They're good. And then I've read the Hellbound Heart as well, which got turned into Hellraiser.
Mm.
So yeah, he doesn't hold back, and because he's super into like he's into that like dark stuff, and
Though I've watched
he has
Hellraiser, which is
well, he has that fetish stuff as well. Like he's there's like a fetish element to his as well. Um, it's not my style, man. Like I think it's that thing of like what we we're talking about before, like tapping into like someone's mind who's not, not necessarily like I don't write the same. This is like reading Train Spotting. Like I don't think like that, but tapping into the writer, it's good. Yeah,
yeah,
he
it's kind
doesn't
of
hold
like with
back.
me
Like
and James Elroy. You know, when I read like an Elroy book, it's kind of like that there, where I'm like, yeah, I just don't think like this, but it's really
yeah,
fascinating. You know,
yeah, yeah. Um, Other horror writers like
or even horror
I'm trying to think.
books. Like you can name
Horror
books
books.
if you want
There was a
to.
book, The Hunger by is it Alma Katsu? Alma Katsu, I
I've
think that's
heard
her
of
name.
this.
Yeah, it's about the Donner Party. Um, that was cool. It was like a horror, and then trying to think. I get like as soon as you ask like what books have you read or like what do you like, I'm like I can't remember.
You read Train Spotting, so you've
I
read
did read
that.
Trainspotting. Yeah,
That's not really a horror book though.
no. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like that's what I mean. So like I'll write horror stories, but I don't necessarily read horror. I might read the occasional short story. Like I Am Legend was like I love that novella. But
That's a good one.
yeah, but I wouldn't really necessarily call it horror. Like it is, but it isn't. Um,
About the last guy
yeah,
on Earth. I mean, that's pretty scary.
yeah. But I love the way that the phrase like I Am Legend. Like I love how that's used like right at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, where it's like that twist of like, dude, you're the monster.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was so good. I'm just having a look at my Goodreads, just seeing if there's anything that jumps out. But no, not really. Um, yeah, I'd say probably mostly like Clive Barker stuff. I just love some of that. But again, like I don't
I have
necessarily read
Weave
it all the time.
World, but I'm like, oh man, do I really want to like dive into Weave World?
Yeah, Weefold is like less horror too. It's more, it's like still dark and horror, but it's like it's more fantastical.
There's
Um,
more of a fantasy, which I'm like, that sounds
yeah,
cool. I kind of want to see this
yeah,
because I've seen Hellraiser. I'm like, I want to see what this weird dude comes up with in his.
yeah, yeah. And he does come up with some crazy stuff. Have you read the what have we got? The Troop by Nick Cutter.
I've heard of it. I'm not read
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I don't know, man. Like it's probably like not the thing to say when you're someone who writes horror, but you're like I don't necessarily read a lot of it because oftentimes it'll just be a short story. Like I'll bang out the short story, but my main focus is fantasy and sci-fi. So
Mm.
when you go onto the Goodreads and see what I've written, it's like a lot of it would be horror, but it's like that'll be like some thought that I've had. Like, I'm not so much a fan of horror. Yeah,
Fair enough.
probably
Like,
more films. I guess that's probably what I should say. I'm more into horror films than I am into horror
it's like,
books.
what are some horror films that you
Like
like?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That thing
Have you
is
watched the
just
original one?
yeah,
Have you
like it's
watched
gnarly.
the? There's been a couple of them.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of the more recent ones. They were okay, but like the first one is just this like cultural icon. I don't know. It's like, it's just so sweaty and gross, and I love that film. Yeah, Hellraiser, Alien. I really like Alien 3. I know that's like not
That's an
what you're meant to
interesting
say.
take.
Yeah, Alien 3, I like it. I like it because they had Alien, where it was like the one alien, and you're stuck. It's like almost like Alien's like a haunted house,
Mm-hmm.
You're stuck with this alien. And then they did Aliens, where it was just like blown up to these proportions of like just guns firing, and in the first movie it was like they couldn't injure the alien because the acid would eat away at the ship, and then they'd all die. But in the second one, they're just like, killing whatever, and the alien dies too quick. So then when it came to the third one, it's like stripped back again. Like they stripped it all back. You're on a prison planet with just these convicts who are, really not nice people. And it's just there's one alien. I really like the way that was stripped back, even though like there's obviously problems with the film, but that's maybe my favorite one.
Yeah, I think studio interference really screwed that film up. Because I watched it, I'm like, there's a good movie in here, but it feels kind of tampered with.
The assembly cut. You've got to watch the assembly cut. I don't know if you've seen the. So there's like the theatrical, and then there's an assembly cut which puts together like
I've only seen it once, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. But
like depending on the version, it's either comes from a cow or a dog. The alien, as in like it's either
I
birthed
watched
from
the
a
one
cow
with
or a
the
dog.
That was
Yeah,
that was kind of tough to watch. I was like, damn.
Yeah. I think that might be the theatrical. I can't remember now. Doesn't matter. But because it's like that alien's referred to as the runner. But then there's and it doesn't
it was
make
like
sense.
when David Fincher was in like his really grimy, nasty like '90s era, where I'm like, God,
that was his first film, and like
I want to take a shower after watching that.
Yeah, he came on like partway through. Like it was pretty like to be like that's your first film, like your feature length film to be thrown like you're doing Alien 3 and it's already mid production.
I don't know if you've read or watched Fight Club, but I'm gonna say it. I'm freaking tired of Fight Club. Like American Psycho, Clockwork. I can deal with those books. I can't deal with Fight Club anymore. It's just
I haven't read it. I have it, but I haven't read it. Should I not read it?
No, it's a good book. It's more of just me being frustrated by how popular it is. I'm just like,
yeah.
Like it's hard to. I don't know if you've ever had like a movie or book like that where it's like so popular and you're just like you just get tired of it. You're just like, okay, it's good. I'm tired. It's not even his best movie, by the way. It's Seven. Seven is my favorite.
Yeah, Seven in.
Seven.
Yeah. Seven in. Yeah, that or I don't know. I liked Zodiac as well.
Yeah, Zodiac's really good.
Yeah, but yeah, Seven in's cool.
No, but people was like, no, but Seven's too 90s. I'm like, well, Fight Club's really 90s too. What are you talking about?
Man? Yeah, like the guy's like faxing at the start of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just
Fincher.
I don't know. I like American Psycho though. It's fun. I like the movie a lot. And the book. Yeah. In the book. I like the book. Yeah. But the book is really like, oh man. You gotta be in a particular mood to read that.
It left me feeling hollow, really hollow. I loved it, but I felt really empty. Like
that's why I can't really give it a 5-star because I'm like, it's so like unpleasant to read, but it's really
putting
good.
Your head in the microwave, and but it's like it's really descriptive. It's really good, and I love what he's doing. Like he's kind of like, it's like the unreliable narrator. It's all of that sort of stuff. It's really good, but it doesn't make me feel good at the end of the day.
You feel disgusting by the time
I'm never going back. It. Like I'm not reading it again. But yeah.
No. Yeah. It's a good book though. I mean, it's kind of like Trainspotting in that way. Bringing it back to Trainspotting.
Yeah, everything comes back to it.
Everything comes back to Trainspotting.
I haven't read any of the sequels of Trainspotting, but
me neither.
Maybe I should.
I've thought about reading like porno, but I'm like, It's like,
yeah.
I have to be in a particular. It's one of those books, kind of like Philip K. Dick, or I have to be in a particular mood to read, like Trainspotting.
Yeah. Well, that's why I bought Filth ages ago, and I've been trying to read it, and I read it, and then I'd stop, and then I'd have to reread it. But it's the same thing of like you have to be in the right mindset to read these things. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I'm just hoping I'm in the right mood when I read some of these books I'm reading this year. I think I am though, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Man, it's It's gonna be a fun year, though. I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow, he likes Tom Clancy. All right.
Who does?
Oh, Steven Erickson. It's listed on his influences on Goodreads. I'm like, that's an interesting choice.
That's an interesting choice. Yeah. Wow.
Because it was funny. I was talking with a friend of mine about Tom Clancy the other day. I'm like, like the Hunt Against Red October is a fun book. There's a couple fun books he did, but like once he starts like really like beating it raw for America, I'm just like, look, I love America. I love my country, but like, I'm sure I don't know if you guys are like big on national pride out there in Australia, but like there are limits.
Yeah.
I have limits.
Yeah. No, it depends. Like some people, not as many. Like I know, I've never been to America, but you see, like people have like flags at the front of their house, like American flags. We don't. I don't know how popular it is. Like, it's not. We don't really do it. Like, but occasionally you do. You do see it sometimes. So it depends. Like I think it depends on where you are. But yeah, and there's always debates about like the nationalism and stuff. But yeah, I've never read a Tom Clancy.
I've read like The Hunt for Red October, and I think that was about it. And I read some of his other ones, which are like, I really freaking hate it when people like write books using the author's name. I just think that's kind of sleazy as hell.
Yeah, because he passed away like 10 years ago, and they're still writing his books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, Rainbow Six Siege is fun. I don't know if you play video games. I don't know how many video games you play, or if you play video games.
Yeah,
but
I've played like Rainbow Six and stuff. Fun. But and like that does use his name. But I feel like it's different having a book where it's like his name is literally like that big on the cover. Like,
and then it's like this guy wrote it. It's
like, with whoever, like and it's like it's implying that he wrote it, but no. Whereas like no one goes into Rainbow Six.
No, it's just like this is his world.
Tom Clancy wrote this game. Like, no, he didn't. No one thinks that.
Yeah, it's just they've done it with like Michael Crichton and I'm sure they're gonna do it with Lee Child when he dies. I don't know if you read any of the Reacher books, but
no,
Well, it is around 10 p.m. over here. But I have enjoyed this conversation quite a bit.
Yeah, same.
So I'm probably gonna call it quits for the evening. But if you'd like to as I like to do before I end these things, if you have any like social media you would like to share with the beloved audience, feel free. If they've even gotten this far, because
That's right. I should just skip to the end. So at Ainy Cormac, that's my Instagram, and if you go there in my bio, you can sign up to the mailing list. There is a free copy of my novella that came out last year called The Land Herself, which is like a prequel novella to the trilogy I'm currently doing. Although it takes place in like the last 100 pages of the book, so it's not so much a prequel. But yeah, so mostly
it's
just
a taste
on Instagram
tester.
and stuff.
I hear you.
It is. It kind of because the main trilogy is written first person, and the guy who's telling you doesn't really want to explain the world. I have a prequel novella that will kind of explain a bit more of the world. Not really explain it, to be honest. But give you a taste into it. So anyway, at Ainy Cormac at Instagram there.
Well, it's good. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this. I enjoyed this conversation quite a bit.
Me too.
I should have you on to hang out again at some point.
And when you get around to some of those books, we should definitely chat about them. PKDs.
When I get like Gormenghast, I'll be like, bro, this is good.
Well, okay, I've only read the first one, and I'm partway through the second. So when I'll finish that, you finish that, we'll have a Gormenghast debrief.
Fair enough. I'll take that.
Cool.
I have some other people I might read the first one with, so we'll see how it goes. But
of course.
So it's been fun. Hope everyone enjoyed this, and until next time.
Thank you.